Chapter 3880. She pounced on him and pinched his face. What a pity. It's not very useful for the cultivation of the transcendent realm. Emolien didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's fine. The God realm has also made great progress. Also, Jojo, I'm warning you. Don't keep hanging on to me. Your hubby, am not a saint. Sir Jojo blinked and suddenly jumped down from his body. She gave a small harumph and turned her head away. Let's go. Master said that a wisp of my soul remembrance is still here. Since I have nothing to do, I'll look around. Jojo. The little fellow turned around and saw Duan Yu and Mu Xingqian running over from the tent area. Mu Xingqian was still holding 2 skewers of roasted mushrooms, and he beamed when he saw Arbor. Sister, what are you guys talking about here? We can eat now. He stuffed the roasted mushrooms into Jojo's hands and threw an ignorant look at Emolien. Didn't you see how Sister said she was hungry on the way here? Now he just had to drag her along and nag. Emolien looked at him speechlessly. This brother-in-law of his was getting more and more annoying nowadays. He kept coming out to be a bright candle. So annoying. Big brother, I'm going to look for something with Lien. We'll be back in the evening. You guys go eat. Big brother will go with you. Big brother, stay here and help me take care of Xian and the rest. Mu Xingqian said reluctantly. All right then. He then nudged Emolien. Bring sister back soon. Emolien nodded helplessly and turned to give Duan Yu a look. The latter was speechless and turned to say to Mu Xingqian, I'll go with them. Mu Xingqian was taken aback and then nodded. After Mu Xingqian left, Arbor said a few simple words to them before spreading out her divine perception to sense the entire Phoenixwood forest. To be honest, she wasn't particularly obsessed with finding her soul remembrance, because she kept feeling that after her soul was complete, perhaps there would be something particularly terrifying waiting for her to recall. Just as she had said to Emolien earlier, there were many things that she did not want to recall. Whether it was right or wrong, those lost years and years should be completely buried with the passage of time, shouldn't they? His master was right. She didn't want to look for her soul remembrance. She subconsciously kept forgetting about this matter. Her soul had exploded before. Arbor withdrew his divine sense and turned to meet 2 pairs of inquiring eyes. In the easternmost part of the forest, in a small fortification. That was what she felt. 2 days later, at Wind Thunder City's Misty Peak. Today, they welcomed a distinguished guest who was famous throughout the 3 prefectures. Yun Piaomiao personally welcomed the guest with a smile and led him to the main seat. I've heard so much about Sir Hewan. It is my honor to meet you today. The old man sitting opposite him had a white beard and white hair. He had the demeanor of a transcendent being. At this moment, he smiled and nodded at him. Din Yun, you flatter me. The Shang Yuanyin family has also heard so much about you. Sir Hewan is too polite. Yun Piaomiao smiled and said, the person who invited you to meet today is my elder brother. Elder brother, the person you want to meet has arrived. As soon as Yun Piaomiao finished speaking, a white-clothed man with a slow smile walked in from outside the small building and nodded slightly at the old man. Sir Hewan, thank you for your help this time. You're too polite. The old man sized him up and said with a smile, I heard that you've already prepared the medicinal herbs. Can you let this old man take a look? Chapter 3881. Great Master Wu Yin nodded his head and stepped forward. He took out 4 jade boxes and opened them one by one, placing them in front of the elder. The elder with white hair and beard looked at the items in the 4 jade boxes, and his eyes naturally lit up. It really was the heart of 1,000-year phoenix wood, snow region divine flower, remote ghost grass, and a bloodshed vermilion fruit. Hewan's beard trembled slightly. He reached out his hand and was just about to touch the bloodshed vermilion fruit. The jade box was closed by Great Master Wu Yan. The Great Master smiled apologetically at Hewan. Sir Hewan, my apologies. There's only 1 set of ingredients, and it is very precious. You monk are so rude. A young girl standing behind Great Master, Hewan shouted angrily in dissatisfaction. My master just wants to see the bloodshed vermilion fruit. Why are you so stingy? This girl was about 18 years old. Her small oval face was like ice and frost, and there was a trace of anger. Her eyebrows were dark and her lips were like cherries. The girl's appearance was very outstanding. At this moment, she was glaring at Great Master Wu Yin. Her brows were slightly furrowed, and she looked very displeased. Great Master Hewen looked at the girl lovingly and patted her hand with a smile. Hanji, don't be rude to the Great Master. This is my disciple Hanji. Please forgive her for being rude. Hewen turned his head towards Great Master Wu Yin and nodded with a smile. This Great Master should also be an alchemist. And Hanji snorted and turned her face to the side. With her master's identity, why is there a need to be so polite to an unknown, stinking monk? There's no need at all. The girl's eyes revealed a faint trace of mockery. Great Master Wu Yin had excellent self-restraint. Although he had already seen this girl's expression, he didn't lower himself to her level. Hearing Hewen's words, he nodded and said apologetically, "My apologies, Sir Hewen. We only have one set of ingredients for this soul-returning pill, so please forgive us." Hewen nodded understandingly. Of course. Don't mention the bloodshed vermilion fruit that they never had the chance to see. Even the snow region divine flower and phoenix were very rare divine-level ingredients. Don't talk about collecting them for normal people. They were simply unheard of. The other party's careful preservation was indeed understandable. And Hanji snorted and retreated to her master's side in a huff. She shut her mouth in displeasure. It was obvious that these people were begging their master to do something for them. Now, they even dared to put on such a defensive face. It was really infuriating. She was one of the disciples with the most outstanding aptitude among the younger generation of Medicine King Island. His master was a consecrator of the Medicine King Island. In the past, no matter which city he went to, he was used to being respected. Who would dare to treat him and his disciple with such an attitude, not even letting them see the medicinal herbs clearly before hurriedly closing the box? For the sake of her master, she didn't explode on the spot, but she didn't give Yun Piao and the others a good look. The brothers Yun Fiang and Yun Piao didn't seem to care. If they could invite one of the consecrators of the Medicine King Island to leave the island and come to the Wind Thunder City, they would naturally have a way to invite the second and third consecrators. This pill master Hewen was a divine grade pill master who had been renowned throughout the 3 prefectures for many years. It is said that his alchemy skills are second only to the island master and the great consecrator. There are not many people in the 3 provinces who are better at alchemy than Hewen. Chapter 3882. If it wasn't for Great Master Wu Yan's words, his pill refining skills wouldn't be enough to successfully refine the soul-returning pill. The Yun brothers also wouldn't have directly sent out invitations to invite him over. It wasn't easy to gather the ingredients for the soul-returning pill. They couldn't afford to gamble. No one could afford to gamble. Great Master Wu Yin smiled as he glanced at Hewen, saying faintly, "Sir Hewen, you've come a long way. You should take a rest today. When you're ready, it won't be too late to refine the pill. The pill refining room has already been prepared for you. As long as you give the order, we can lead you there." "Thank you, Great Master." Hewen smiled and nodded, turning his head to look at his beloved disciple, smiling as he shook his head. "Hanji, didn't you always say you want to take a look around the royal school? Master has nothing else to do here. You can go." And Hanji harumphed, looking up with an arrogant expression. "It's fine if I don't look." Hewen smiled, turning to Yun Piao. "Principal Yun, my disciple is still young and has the playful nature of a youth. If she offends you, please don't take offense." Yun Piao nodded unconcernedly. "You worry too much, Sir Hewen. Why would they lower themselves to the same level as a spoiled and pampered girl? Principal Yun, please find someone of similar age to accompany my disciple around the school." Hewen's love for this disciple was indescribable. Seeing that she wasn't in a good mood, he tried all sorts of ways to make her happy. Although Yun Piao felt that Hewen's way of spoiling his disciple was a bit overboard, as an outsider, he naturally wouldn't say anything. He casually agreed and arranged for people to do the work. East of the Phoenix Forest, a small defensive structure. Compared to the small base at the entrance of the Phoenix Forest, this small defensive structure was even more pitifully small. There weren't many types of items sold in the stalls, but the price was double that of the base at the entrance. Most people treated this place as a base where they could set up camp, coming here to rest instead of to buy items. On the first day, Xiao Mu arrived, which was the night before yesterday. She had actually already found her soul remembrance inside an extremely secretive tree hole. At this point, she couldn't help but want to complain. That soul remembrance had been stuck in the tree hole for who knew how long. It was wrapped in a ball of green vines and sat like an idiot in the ball of vines. It looked serious, as if it was cultivating, but in reality, it was unconsciously in a daze. Duan suppressed his laughter and asked her, "Why are you here?" But who the hell knew why she was here? It was normal for one's soul to be torn apart during a soul explosion. A part of it was lost in the void, and the remaining fragments might be wandering in some corner of the 3 prefectures. Everything was possible. Her soul had always been unstable. Back then, she had been tricked by the soul leaving talisman. As a soul, she had drifted all the way to the heavenly ice and snow region, a broken place at the end of the world. How could she explain this? After retrieving the 2 strands of soul remembrance, including the strand of soul remembrance given by the Omega Kitoku, she had found 3 of the 5 strands of soul remembrance that her master had mentioned. However, there weren't any major changes to his soul, nor were there any memories that he had forgotten. This is good, Arbor thought to herself. She even breathed a sigh of relief from the bottom of her heart. If the past was lost, then so be it. Wouldn't it be too painful to pick it up and think about it? Chapter 3883. There are less than 24 hours left on the countdown. Qi Xianxian supported her head with her hands and called out in a melancholy tone. For the past 2 days, they had been recuperating in this small base. They would cultivate in the morning and night and would walk around in the afternoon. Their days were really peaceful and beautiful. It was not any worse than when they were in the royal school. Anyway, they were definitely going to be first in the preliminary round. Everyone was too lazy to wander around the Phoenix Forest and look for other teams to rob red gemstones. As for Mo Yin's team, they did not do anything after obtaining 2 pieces of phoenix wood and accumulating enough points for the final round. Furthermore, they had obtained more than 700 points from robbing other students a few days ago. It was more than enough for them to qualify for the final round. Looks like it will be over by tomorrow evening. Little Fatty and Luyu both sat lazily on the wooden window frame. They each held a wine flask in their hands and would take a sip from time to time. It was almost the 7th month. The moment the sun rose from the horizon, the weather became very hot. Luckily, they were in the depths of the Phoenix Forest, and the sunlight was blocked by the trees. They would not feel the heat until noon. It's so noisy outside. I wonder who's here. Duan Muqing, who was playing chess with Jiang Shaoxin, raised his eyes and looked out the window. For the past 2 days, they had rented the best 3-story wooden building in this small base. The rent was 30,000 spirit coins per day. The environment was not bad. In this temporary base, they should be happy to be able to find a well-built building with a forest and a water source. The boss counted the money with a smile. Naturally, his service was very good. People came and went in the small base. However, they were stopped by the boss. Basically, no one dared to disturb them. But today, looking at the time, it was not yet noon. Qi Xianxian walked out of the wooden building and came to the corridor. She lowered her head and looked down. Dozens of ragged and emaciated adventurers rushed in, and the boss of the wooden building was negotiating with them in a low voice. She did not know what they were talking about. One of the middle-aged men suddenly raised his thick hand and slapped the boss's face. The boss's face turned green. He called for his employees to have a conflict with the group of people, which attracted the person in charge of the small base to come and deal with the matter. Qi Xianxian watched for a while before she entered the house and said to everyone, "Does everyone want to go down and take a look?" Those people said that a few minutes ago, they were attacked by a wave of monsters in the forest. It seems like a lot of people are injured. Monster? Arbor frowned. She didn't know why, but when she heard those 2 words, she couldn't help but associate them with zombies. She didn't know if she was overthinking things. The cannibal bees that suddenly chased them before were very suspicious. Arbor wouldn't be too surprised if there were zombies here. There was nothing wrong with running to the base when there was danger. At the very least, there are more people here, plus the bamboo fences outside cough. All right, bamboo fences were not very effective against normal wild beasts. At best, in the eyes of these Shioja, it was just a decoration. I'll go down and take a look, Yin said as she stood up. She immediately glanced in Duan Yu's direction. The guy was leaning against the brocade couch in boredom. When he saw Duan Yu's gaze, he involuntarily rolled his eyes. Chapter 3884. So annoying. You have to find darling Duan Yu for everything. This darling doesn't really want to deal with you. Wu, seeing that he was too lazy to move, Yin went up to drag him away without another word. There's something fun downstairs. Arbor expressionlessly watched the two's slender figures walk out. Qi Xianxian snuck a glance at her and stifled a giggle. She coughed lightly and said, "The Crown Prince and His Highness Prince Chun really have endless topics to talk about." That's right. That's right. The little fatty echoed with a smile, but when he saw his Xiao's expressionless glance at him, he couldn't continue that. Humph. Arbor pushed open the door and walked out. He stood beside the railing and looked down. Those two fools were already standing downstairs. They were both wearing the same academy uniform, their white clothes unhurriedly spotless. Yin tilted his head slightly as he chatted with those ragged-clothed team members about something. The atmosphere could be considered harmonious. After sensing the little fellow's gaze, this fool looked up and smiled at her. Duan Yu also looked up and waved his paw at her. Humph. She expressionlessly faced them with her stoic face. Is there a physician? Is there a pill refiner? Following a shout, several extremely disheveled figures with crooked footsteps once again barged into the small courtyard in front of the wooden building. It couldn't be helped. The small base outside was already crammed full of adventurers from all walks of life, and there was almost no place to stand. Compared to the crowd outside, this standalone wooden building was clearly a secluded place. Although the small courtyard was also crammed with 30 to 40 people, it was still considered spacious. Duan Yu turned around and nudged Yin with his elbow with a spurious smile. Crown Prince Mo followed his line of sight and raised his straight brows. The newcomers were none other than the group from the City of Shadows. That man named Zhao, he was currently carrying junior sister Mu Xiaoxue on his back. Mu Xiaoxue had fainted again and was currently fainting on her senior brother Zhao Yi's back. Lin Zhener and a maidservant named Xiaoro were accompanying them. Gu Yishuan, Huang Qishan, Su Fugue, and Zhong He were also following behind them. Yin and Duan Yu exchanged a look. It was hilarious. Didn't they run towards the entrance of the forest when they were scared off by JoJo's 5 spirits reincarnation tribulation? After running for so many days, why did he suddenly appear in the easternmost part of the forest? What a bunch of weirdos, the two of them secretly ridiculed in their hearts. It's that woman. Lin Zhener pointed at Arbor, who was standing by the railing on the 3rd floor of the wooden building, with a hint of fear in her eyes. Every time they ran into this woman, it was their bad luck. Even Lin Zhener was a little afraid of Arbor now. She did not dare to provoke her again. They didn't want to be so unlucky. If they had known earlier, they would have left the Phoenix Forest a few days ago. In the end, everyone's obsession with the Phoenix Flower made them return unwillingly. After a few days of searching, they still couldn't find the Phoenix Flower. Instead, they were attacked by a wave of monsters. They were forced to follow the crowd and retreat into the small base. Chief, things aren't good. 2 muscular men quickly ran in from the outside and went straight to the person in charge of the small base, Xia. With a heavy expression, they said, "A large number of beasts have gathered outside the fortification. They are already within 1 mile. Everyone's expressions abruptly changed. How many? One of the muscular men said sullenly, "Several 100,000. Chapter 3885. The adventurers in front of the building nearly collapsed to the ground. An attack from several 100,000 beasts? Not to mention this small and lousy base. Even if it was a large-scale fortification outside or a city with powerful combat strength, it was impossible to withstand the attack of several million beasts. They were dead, for sure. Everyone was at a loss, grief, and indignation. Some people frequently came to Phoenix Grove for training, but this was their first time encountering such a situation, so their faces were filled with dejection. It was impossible for anyone to survive such an attack. Why don't we try and see if we can leave Phoenix Grove first with a flying spirit artifact? Someone suggested meekly. Don't joke around. Those harpies all know how to fly, and their attacks are very powerful. They can knock down a flying spirit artifact with just 2 punches. Then, let's gather the teleportation talisman matrix in our hands and see if we can teleport some people out to seek help. A black-level teleportation talisman matrix can only teleport a distance of 20 kilometers. Right now, there are several 100,000 beasts surrounding us. Within 500 kilometers, there are beasts everywhere. Are you sure you won't be teleported directly into the beast horde if you teleport? Then what do you think we should do? That person was also enraged after his idea was repeatedly rejected. Then why don't you give us an idea? Everyone, don't quarrel. Duanyu interrupted them with a grin. May I ask, what are those harpies? Appearance was everything. When everyone saw that his handsome smile was very pleasing to the eye, their tone and attitude toward him inexplicably softened. Young sir, you may not know, but those harpies are the monsters we encountered in the forest. That's right, that's right. They look extremely strange. They have a fist-sized head on their slender necks, but the body of the harpy behind them is enormous. My heavens, they really are super monsters. Their strength and speed are very swift and violent. Lien, Duanyu turned his head and raised his brows as he called out to the startled Emolien. Emolien returned to her senses and glanced at him before silently dragging him out of the crowd. She simply told Duanyu about the sculptures she saw in Happiness Village and Grayfield Village. Duanyu creased his brows. In that case, doesn't that mean that the harpy is an improved product of heavenly providence? Emolien's expression turned serious as she nodded. But as for the beasts, could it be that they have a secret method to command the beasts? Let's go back and discuss this with Jojo and the others. When the two of them reached the door, they saw Zhao carrying his beloved junior sister on his back. They were already at the door of the wooden building. Duanyu reflexively blocked him with a frown. What are you guys doing? Get out of the way. Zhao gritted his teeth and shouted. Your Highness Prince Chun. Gui Xuan swiftly rushed over and saluted Duanyu. Our companion is sick and needs a room to recuperate. Please do us the convenience. Duanyu looked at him with a sardonic smile and sized him up with his peach blossom eyes that emitted a chilly glint. Does this prince look like such a compassionate person? The door creaked open. The little stoic stood at the door and stared fixedly at them. She grumbled, "Let's go home." Emolien was secretly amused and ran back inside. She cried out pitifully, "Jojo, it's a mess outside. I heard that several 100,000 beasts have surrounded the fortifications." Chapter 3886. Arbor blinked and replied with an "Oh," before glaring at Duanyu, who was outside the door. "Come here." Duanyu walked to Arbor's side, and Zhao followed with Mu Xiaoxue on his back. Just as they reached the door, they saw the little stoic raise her hand. The door slammed shut right in front of their faces with a clang, and the door almost squeezed his nose crooked. As the eldest disciple of the City of Shadows, Zhao had never been treated like this before. His eyes were red from anger, and he kicked the door fiercely. "Open the door! Open the door!" Just as he was about to kick the door for the third time, the door was open from the inside. The little stoic looked at him frostily. Without another word, she swung her hand and lashed a vine whip at his face. "Senior brother Zhao." Lin Jinner cried out in alarm. Zhao, he was very agile, and with a sidestep with Mu Xiaoxue on his back, he dodged the oncoming vine whip. Just as he was about to speak with pursed lips, a vine whip abruptly coiled around his back, causing him to turn pale with fright. His precious little junior sister was behind him. Wouldn't his little junior sister, who was a normal person, be beaten to death with this whip? Zhao, he twisted his waist and fell backward in the blink of an eye. He pulled his little junior sister into his arms from behind and subconsciously raised his arm to block. Pah! A heavy whip ruthlessly slid across his arm. Under the stinging pain, he lowered his head to look. A fiery red mark had appeared. Those who want to barge into court death, feel free to come. Arbor's icy voice was without the slightest warmth. The people in the courtyard all shrunk back in fright and obediently retreated a few steps. Guishuan walked forward with a sullen face. Crown Princess, you're abusing your power to bully others. We rented this building with real money, so it's our property for the next few days, Arbor said coldly. Who exactly is the one who doesn't know the rules and trespasses into other people's residence? Arbor gave him a mocking expression, and his gaze shifted to Mu Xiaoxue. What? You want to be the hero saving the beauty again? Huh! That mockery was like a sharp knife falling into Guishuan's heart, making him inexplicably think of the dead Zhongli Zhuwei. Crown Prince Consort, Guishuan shouted angrily and furiously. Good. Jay, just treat it as us trespassing on your courtyard. We don't know the rules. But now that Sister Xiao Shue's life and death are unknown, we urgently need a doctor to treat her. She's just an ordinary person. Can't you be kind and lend her a room? Bang. The little stoic slammed the door shut in their faces again. This crown princess is not a charity. A cold voice came out from within, like icy cold water that poured into everyone's hearts. If you had come to discuss this matter in a friendly manner, there would have been room for negotiation. Barging in like this without any sense of reason, as if it was only natural. Huh, who cares about you? The little stoic turned around and saw two impatient eyes gazing at her with an expression that said, Ask me, Jojo. I'll definitely tell you everything I know. Arbor rolled his eyes at them and walked up the stairs to the third floor. Is there really a herd of several 100,000 beasts gathered outside? Jojo, Emolien appeared in front of him in a flash. Do you still remember the 3 sculptures we saw in the underground passageway of Happiness Village? Arbor was startled, but immediately understood. He stopped and turned to look at them. You saw the strange people on the sculptures? Chapter 3887. She paused and frowned. Could it be the monsters that those people outside are talking about that attacked the crowd? If that was the case, then Tianyin was making a move again. It was unknown whether Heavenly Fate's actions this time were targeted at her, Xiao Mu, or at the Royal Academy, or everyone in the adventurer base. Perhaps it's just because they want to test the combat strength of these improved exotic breeds. Emolien said softly. Arbor nodded. If it was Tianyin, it was very likely that he had such a motive. The entire 3-story wooden building seemed to tremble slightly under the ground's tremors. A huge commotion came from outside. Suddenly, the entire door of the small courtyard fell down. Many people rushed in from outside. In an instant, the relatively spacious courtyard was filled with a sea of people. A set of defense and rebound talisman matrices flew out of the window and instantly enveloped the entire single-family wooden building. Even if someone rushed forward to kick the door or wanted to fly in through the window, they were sent flying by the rebound force of the defense talisman matrix. Guishuan and Zhao, you were guarding the city of Shadow's little princess, Mu Xiaoxue, and were squeezed to the entrance of the wooden building. Arbor, Emolien, and Duan, you stood in front of the 3-story fence and looked down at the rowdy crowd below with displeasure. A plate of loose sand, not the least bit interesting, she said coldly. These people only knew how to make a fuss when they encountered something. Arbor didn't have the slightest intention of saving them. When encountering danger, everyone would rely on their own abilities to break free of their predicament. What was there to make a fuss about? It was useless and even gave people a headache. Everyone, stop making a fuss, stop making a fuss. Qiu Fu, Lu Pinwan, and the others, who were sandwiched in the crowd, repeatedly shouted at the crowd while protecting 5th young Master Qin. Why are they here? Qi Xianxian walked to the fence and looked curiously at Qiu Fu and the others below. Xiao Mu's small face was taut as her gaze landed on Qiu Fu and the others, and she creased her brows in displeasure. Shouldn't they have returned to the academy with the mentors? Xiao Fu, Lu Pinwen. Qi Xianxian called out and waved at them. Xiao Fu raised his head and saw them. His face lit up. Miss Xianxian, Miss Qiao, you're both here. Come up. Qi Xianxian waved at them. Xiao Fu, Lu Pinwen, and the other two hurriedly grabbed fifth young Master Qin and directly jumped up to the third floor, standing next to Qi Xianxian without any hindrance. When the others saw this, they also jumped up quickly, wanting to follow along. In the end, however, it was very shamelessly bounced back by the defense rune array and almost hit the people down below, causing a series of curses and roars. Why didn't you all return to the academy? Qi Xianxian asked. Don't mention it. After we parted ways with you guys, the damn dean said that the air transportation spirit artifact can only carry 300 students. Xiao Fu rolled his eyes and said snappily, as for the rest of you, if you don't want to go back on your own, you can wait at the entrance of the Phoenixwood Forest for the academy to send someone to pick you up. We thought that it would be more convenient to use the air transportation spirit artifact, so we decided to wait since we had nothing to do. In the end, we screwed ourselves over. A group of strange-looking harpies suddenly flew in from outside the Phoenixwood Forest and immediately attacked when they saw people. Many students were injured, so everyone ran into the forest and ran around randomly. Chapter 3888. We wanted to take refuge in a small fortification, but the harpies attacked and massacred the place. There were no survivors in the small base. We ran out with all our might and followed the crowd to fight against the harpies. We ran all the way here. This is the small fortification in the east, right? Lu Pinwen said with a bitter face. I heard that the fortification in the center of the forest was also breached. We're in trouble now. Not only are there thousands of harpies surrounding us, there's also a large group of bees surrounding us. Qi Xianxian nodded and patted his shoulder. All right, don't look so bitter. There's always a way to solve the problem. Lu Pinwen smiled at her. Xianxian, you're a very optimistic person. Little Fatty had been eyeing them covetously. When he saw Lu Pinwen's expression, he immediately pounced on him and squeezed his chubby little body between Xianxian and Lu Pinwen. What are you laughing at? Lu Pinwen was speechless. Did he have to be scolded for laughing? Humph. Little Fatty glanced at him and reached out to pull Xianxian to his side. Xianxian, do you want to eat the hot roasted sweet potato? Yes, yes, yes. The little foodie immediately nodded and turned to Little Fatty with bright eyes. Little Fatty hurriedly pulled her into the house. They're inside. Along the way, he nagged, don't be so friendly with some unfamiliar classmates. Who knows if they're beasts in human skin? Lu Pinwen and Captain Xiao Fu looked at each other in confusion. Fifth young master took a few steps forward and quietly came to Arbor's side. He said in a low voice, there are 200 to 300 of our classmates outside. Arbor was stunned and nodded casually. Is it noisy? This time, it was fifth young master's turn to be stunned. He then shook his head. It's not that noisy. It's just that many of us are injured, so we're a little depressed. Arbor, a bunch of weaklings. They're depressed just because they're injured, and they still have the face to come out for training? I'll go check on them and bring them in. Arbor snorted and was about to jump down. Yin quickly reached out and hugged her. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Jojo, there's so many people down there. How are you going to bring them in? Besides, this small courtyard was already crowded with more than 100 people, and they were already unable to stand properly. How are they going to drag in all the 200 students outside? Arbor said expressionlessly. Put them in the talisman. A bunch of fellows who only know how to drag him down. Just looking at them is detestable. I'm not in a mood to care if they live or die. I just don't want to see the miserable face of the damn principal. Huh. Yin smiled and stroked the little guy's hair. Jojo, you're the best. What nonsense. She was not a good person. I'll go down with you. Yin grinned as he nuzzled the little fellow's head. Holding her small hand, the two of them jumped down from the small building and floated out of the small courtyard as light as a feather. The fortifications outside the small courtyard were already filled with people. The remnants of the Royal School army occupied a corner. The 200-plus people were sitting in rows. His Highness the Crown Prince? Hey, the Crown Princess is here. His Highness the Crown Prince and the Crown Princess are here. Someone called out. The students from the royal school, who were originally drooping their heads, raised their heads, and their eyes immediately lit up with joy. Chapter 3889. The Ability of the Crown Princess and His Royal Highness. Most of the people had already known in the process of escaping from the cannibal bees. For some reason, seeing the two coming hand in hand, everyone's depressed mood rose. It was as if they had seen their backbone and immediately had a direction to look up to. Student Crown Prince. Some people even wiped their tears, as if they had seen their loved ones that they had not seen in 800 years. Full of grievances, they suddenly had someone to talk to. It was really too bitter. They did not expect that in this preliminary round of the Tianyuan list, Feng Mulin's experience was so bitter. It was one thing for him to be beaten up and robbed of his ruby gem after that. He was chased by the cannibal bees and ran to the ends of the earth. They did not expect that after waiting for 2 days to return to the academy and comfortably stay in front of Feng Mulin to wait for the flying spiritual tool, they would encounter such a problem. What kind of sin did they commit? Men do not cry easily, but that was not sad. Thinking of the bitter experience of their own group, everyone wanted to cry a little. Emolien was a little uneasy, the corners of her mouth twitching. The uniforms of the students in front of him had long been torn to shreds during the fight. Everyone was more or less stepped on, and at this time they were still lying on the ground groaning. It really looked like a tragic scene. Arbor looked at them expressionlessly. He did not understand why this group of people looked at him and Lotus as if they had seen their brothers for 800 years. A group of weak guys were actually beaten by a few freak harpies? What are you crying for? Arbor roared. As a result, miraculously, all the students of the Royal Academy sat up straight in a row, and everyone tried to hold back their tears. Arbor saw that they were no longer crying, nodded with satisfaction, and took out more than a dozen bottles of ointment and pills from his inner world and threw them over. The ointment stops bleeding and treats external injuries. The pills are taken orally to stop internal injuries. Thank you, Crown Princess. Everyone distributed the medicine in their hands and silently applied the ointment and ate the pills. The Crown Princess classmate? What kind of name was that? Arbor paced back and forth in front of them, pacing back and forth. After a long while, he asked in a deep voice, "You want to hide in my storage talisman so that I can bring you back to the academy? Or are you going to pick up your weapons and beat the weird thing that hurt you so badly that even your parents won't be able to recognize it? Crown Princess, do you have a way to deal with them? Crown Princess, can we defeat those monsters? Fight. If there's a way, I'm willing to fight. Let's beat them back." When Arbor saw that more than half of the people were roaring in a frenzy, his originally tense little face relaxed a little. Yes, it was not so weak that it was unbearable. At least he knew how to pick up a knife to fight back. The stoic face glanced coolly at them. Since that's the case, you should first properly recover. She threw the spirit-restoring medicinal liquid to these people, then walked to the front of a few heavily injured students squatting down to treat their injuries. Most of these people had external injuries. Some had lost too much blood, some had broken arms, broken legs, and so on. Arbor's treatment was very fast. In a short while, she had treated all kinds of injuries, big and small, on the bodies of more than a dozen students. Before she could get up and give a few instructions, she saw a person rush out from the side. Chapter 3890. Without another word, that person shouted at her anxiously. "So you're a doctor? Why didn't you say anything when I asked you just now?" Zhao Yi roared at Xiao Mu in exasperation as he hugged his little princess. That matter-of-fact look on his face made the people around him frown. Emolien stared icily at Zhao Yi, who was hollering loudly. Just as he moved his finger, it was hooked by Xiao Mu. Ignore him. It would be a waste of effort to beat up such a crazy guy. One of the female members of the adventurer team next to them couldn't help but mock. Who do you think you are? Does everyone have to take care of your princess? When Zhao Yi rushed over with the little princess Mu Xiaoxue, he bumped into a few people without saying a word. This had already aroused the disgust of others. He's taking care of his own school's schoolmate. What does it have to do with you? Another person saw the actions of Arbor's group and naturally knew that they were all students of the same school. Zhao Yi's eyes flashed with anger as he glared at the two people who spoke. He then turned to Arbor and shouted, "As a doctor, how can you leave someone in the lurch? My junior sister fainted after being scared by the harpy and hasn't woken up yet. Take a look at her and see if it's because she has other injuries." Buffed, buffed. The continuous laughter made Zhao Yi turn his head and glare angrily at them. "What are you laughing at? What's so funny? Isn't it funny? How can you expect a doctor to save someone who fainted after being scared out of her wits by the harpy?" Ha ha! Many people around him laughed out loud. This mocking laughter naturally made Zhao Yi very angry. He raised his fist and wanted to argue with the people around him. Beside him, Lin Jinner's pupil shrank as she took a few steps back. To be honest, she didn't dare to cause trouble for that evil little girl. She didn't think well of senior brother Zhao running to that girl for treatment. "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Those people were in the same team and naturally wouldn't take this lying down. They surrounded Zhao Yi and were about to fight. Gu Yishuan frowned and came up to him. "Why did you get into a fight with them? The most important thing now is to find someone to save Miss Xiao Shui." He glanced at Arbor with his cold eyes and said coldly, "Don't expect this cold-blooded woman to help you. If you have the energy, you might as well find other doctors to treat Miss Xiao Shui. Do you want to die?" Emolien turned to look at Gu Yishuan. Just as she was about to move her finger, Jojo grabbed it. Gu Yishuan suddenly realized that he had been too impudent in front of His Highness the Crown Prince. He immediately retreated a few steps like a quail and respectfully cupped his hands in greeting. "Your Highness." Emolien looked at him with a cold smile, her eyes filled with coldness. Zhao Yi's face darkened as he turned to glare at Arbor. He hugged Mu Xiaoxue and pushed the people around him away. "Get out of my way. What kind of people are they?" Everyone glared at them angrily. Suddenly, a voice said faintly, "Young master, if you trust me, I can take a look at that girl." A handsome young man around 27 or 28 years old walked up and cupped his hands in greeting at Zhao Yi. He smiled and said, "I am Li City's rejuvenation medicine shop, Senior Medicine Master Zhang Zhengyang. Greetings, everyone." Chapter 3891. Everyone's gazes shifted to this young apothecary and sized him up. Seeing his handsome face and gentle expression, it was hard for them to loathe this person. However, Zhao Yi glared at this young man defensively. He then lowered his head to look at the delicate and beautiful little girl in his arms and instantly became vigilant. This person was most likely willing to volunteer to save little junior sister's life because he fancied her beauty, right? Otherwise, why would he be like this? A trace of disgust arose in his heart towards this young man. Tseng Xingyang from Li City's Huichun medicine shop. When Tseng Xingyang raised his hand, Zhao Yi defensively extended his arm and blocked in front of that person. "You really know how to treat?" Zhao Yi's expression contained an imperceptible trace of disdain. Li City's Huichun medicine shop? He should only be an ordinary physician from a small city. Could he treat his little junior sister? On the contrary, it was the maidservant Xiao Ro who stepped forward and whispered to Zhao, "Young Master Zhao, Mrs. Illness cannot be delayed. How about we let this physician examine her?" Not only was he a physician from medicine shop, but he had even introduced himself just now. He was a rarely seen high-level apothecary. Why did young Master Zhao block such a person who was willing to treat her miss? Arbor curled his lips and glanced mockingly at this man called Zhao Yi. What a hilarious man with complicated thoughts. She wasn't interested in paying attention to that side. Turning around, the little stoic said to the Imperial Academy students with a taut face, "Keep the spirit recovery pills I gave you well. Be more careful when you fight later. If you don't have enough spiritual energy, use them to replenish it. Don't save them, just come to me to collect them after you finish eating. Don't make trouble for me with missing arms and legs." The group of students inexplicably felt that the little stoic's reprimand was very pleasing to the ear, and they nodded repeatedly in agreement. "You all rest first. We'll go find the person in charge of this small fortification to understand the situation." When Arbor and Mo Lien walked past Zhao Yi, they swept a glance at Sang Jinyang, who was currently treating Mu Xiaoxue. Seeing his focused expression, he inserted 2 needles into Mu Xiaoxue after taking her pulse, and then started to nourish her with medicinal energy. Arbor, how humorous. Such a delicate girl had fainted because of the harpy and still hadn't woken up. Was this really suitable for training? She must have been carried all the way here. What was the point of this? Mo Yin could see the contempt seeping out of the little fellow's eyes, and he couldn't resist curling his lips into a smile. He squeezed her small hand and said softly, "Chow chow. Not everyone in this world is like you. You can obviously seek protection, but you have to fight for it yourself." He glanced to the side and looked at her gently. "My Chow Chow is the one and only woman in this world." The little guy blushed and turned his head away. How strange. Why did Jojo's Lotus start praising Jojo as they chatted? Sir Jojo stole a glance at him before turning his head away. Prince Amo couldn't resist laughing out loud. He quickened his steps and allowed her to hold his hand with a grin as they walked forward quickly. A middle-aged man with a black beard was walking toward them. When he saw the 2 of them, his eyes brightened slightly, and he quickly walked up to them and cupped his hands respectfully. Xiaobing greets the Crown Prince and Crown Princess. "You're the person in charge of this small fortification?" Chapter 3892. Yes. Xiaogong nodded and said with a serious expression, "I'm sure that your highness has heard of what happened outside. The entire Phoenixwood forest has been surrounded by the beasts gathered by the harpies. There are about 500 practitioners that can be used in this small fortification. Most of them are practitioners above the 10th level of the spirit realm. 200 people from the royal school can participate in the battle." Arbor said coldly, "As for the others, if you don't want to die, go and rally them. Pick up your weapons and fight with the team. No one will sacrifice their precious life for others, and no one has the obligation to protect others without compensation. The price to pay for retreating is to be a scapegoat, and that is death. Let them think it through." Arbor's cold voice fell into the ears of the surrounding team members. They felt as if icy water was slowly flowing through their hearts, and a trace of coldness seeped from their bones. "Captain Xia, our team is willing to follow the deployment." "Captain Xia, we are also willing." Xiaogong quickly nodded towards the captains of the surrounding mercenary teams. Prince Mo smiled faintly. "Xiaogong, take out all the usable weapons in the fortification and distribute them to the combatants." "Yes. I'll give you 15 minutes to count the number of combatants." "Yes. Look, something seems to be flying over from the horizon." Suddenly, someone cried out in surprise. Everyone hurriedly looked up. White robes flowed in the wind, as if chasing the stars and moon. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. They landed in the small fortification at an extremely fast speed. The originally crowded fortification was now filled to the brim with people. Some of the injured had been moved to the corner, and there was no place for them to stand. "Holy Maiden!" 2 old consecrators who sang well rushed forward with hot tears in their eyes. Their faces were full of guilt, as if they couldn't wait to commit suicide in front of Arbor to atone for their sins. "Arbor, who the fuck is your Holy Maiden?" An old man dressed in green, with long hair draped over his shoulders and an air of immortality, quickly floated in front of Arbor. He stepped forward with an excited expression and quickly bowed. "Feng Hepping greets, Your Excellency Saintus." One of the consecrators said excitedly, "Saintus, this is our clan's grand elder." Everyone looked at the group of Phoenix clan members who had suddenly appeared with a strange look in their eyes. Their gazes fell on Arbor again. The latter's expressionless face looked particularly comical in front of the enthusiastic phoenixes. This was just like having one of the hot ends of a shaving pole. That hot face was facing the little stoic's ice, cold, small face. "Saintus, this place is surrounded by a group of beasts. Why don't we go back to the tribe and talk? What do you think?" Everyone's eyes lit up. Clanland? These cultivators that suddenly appeared seemed to have very high cultivation bases. Could it be that their clan was nearby? Didn't that mean that everyone here could be saved? "I think you got the wrong person. I'm not your Holy Maiden." Arbor said expressionlessly. Moreover, you said that the group of beasts outside is approaching. We naturally can't sit and wait for death. When Huang Chishan heard this, he hurriedly squeezed over and rubbed his hands as he said fawningly, that, Crown Prince Consort, you can ask your clansmen to bring us into the clan's land to avoid trouble first. Chapter 3893. Impudent. A youth from the Phoenix clan angrily rebuked Huang Chishan, his eyes revealing a look of disgust. What do you take our clan's land for? Are you people worthy of entering our clan's land? Huang Chishan and the rest revealed anger in their eyes as they glared at the Phoenix clan member. They could not help but clamor. What are you saying? We slap. Two sudden palm winds transformed into formless palms that landed heavily on Huang Chishan's mouth that was about to provoke him. Arbor looked at him indifferently, her face full of ridicule. The entire Phoenix clan is made up of deity realm experts. You, a little spirit realm expert, shouldn't jump around in front of others, okay? Huang Chishan angrily turned to Arbor, his face twisted in anger. Crown Princess, is this how your clansmen treat their classmates? If you spout any more nonsense, I'll make sure you won't be able to spit out another word for the rest of your life. Arbor impatiently turned her head, her eyes revealing a sharp glint. Huang Chishan was startled. He took a few steps back and stepped on someone's foot. That person cried out in pain and pushed him heavily without holding back. Feng Hepping. Arbor's cold gaze swept over the Phoenix clan's head elder. Take your people and quickly leave this place. Return to your clan's land. These Wind clan members have been living in seclusion for a long time. There is no need to drag them into this muddy water. Unexpectedly, the head elder in green only smiled faintly. Since the Holy Maiden insists on staying here, listen to me. Stay here and help the Holy Maiden. You must protect the Holy Maiden well. Yes. Xiao Mu face-bombed and turned around with a headache. She might as well ignore these people. She had always been a cold person, so she was really not used to it. Suddenly, there were so many people who were inexplicably friendly to her. This caused a faint trace of fear to rise from the bottom of her heart. How could there be such a good thing in this world? What kind of people would be like her family, unconditionally good to her? Moreover, she had clearly carried away their family's 10,000-year phoenix wood. So why was she treating her so well? Didn't she find it strange? Emol Yin, who was at the side, did not say anything the entire time, but she felt inexplicably stifled. What's going on? With so many gigolos around Jojo, Emol Yin felt an inexplicable sense of crisis. Jojo, Sama turned around and walked for a while. Suddenly, he found his husband standing there in a daze. He didn't know what he was thinking, but he didn't move at all. The little fellow hurriedly stomped back to his side, reached out to hold his hand, and dragged him away. Everyone was speechless. Just how much did the little girl like her husband? She couldn't bear to leave him there for a few seconds and immediately want to pick him up and bring him home. When the two returned to the house, the person who opened the door to welcome them was a grinning Duanyu. How is it? The Phoenix clan is here, Arbor said expressionlessly. If we only had a 50% chance of winning before, now we have an 80% chance. There was still a 20% chance of winning because who knew if those weaklings in the base would change sides at the last minute. Jojo, I have a strange premonition. Duanyu walked to her side and said softly, the Heavenly Fate clan's actions this time seem to be just to delay us. After this matter, I have to make a trip back. Duanyu smiled faintly and glanced at her. I will do my best to stop all their actions. Chapter 3894. We'll contact you when the time comes. He stretched out his hand and couldn't help but rub her little head. The three prefectures should work together to deal with the Heavenly Fate realm. Sangzhou won't be a burden to you. Don't try to show off. Emol Yin pursed her lips and glanced at him. Dealing with the Heavenly Fate can't be done in a day. You can only take action after planning it out. Arbor looked up at her husband and inwardly cursed. Sundara Lotus, you're clearly worried about me, but your mouth is always unforgiving. Duanyu harumphed and cast him a disdainful look. I'm just informing you first. Of course, you still have to deal with the matter at hand first. The heavenly fate is so generous. Without my help, you won't even be able to pass. Huh. Emolian harumphed at him before turning to look at Xia Yi, who was rushing over. Is everything ready? Xia Yi nodded. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint. Your Highness, all the combat personnel are here. Emolian nodded at him. That's good. Let's also make preparations and head out. Since the heavenly fate sent them such a generous battle, they would gladly accept it and wipe out these monsters while they were at it. Arbor's head hurt at the thought of those Feng clansmen, but she still said after some thought, I'll go have a chat with Feng Hepping. She really couldn't understand why these people would call her Saintess for no reason. When Feng Hepping saw the little girl heading down the stairs and walking toward him, he involuntarily turned around with a smile and bowed respectfully. Saintess, did you need me for something? Arbor sighed exasperatedly. I have something to ask you. Come with me to the house. There were too many people outside, so it wasn't convenient for them to talk. Feng Hepping naturally nodded and followed Arbor into the house. He said with a smile, Saintess, please ask if you have any doubts. I'll definitely tell you everything I know. Sir Jojo was at the end of his patience. You guys, can you not call me Saintess in the future? Call me Arbor. The title Saintess reminded her of Nie Yaoguang again. It was disgusting. Feng Hepping immediately shook his head and refused. How can that be? How can a member of the Phoenix clan call the Saintess by her name? Then you can call me Your Excellency. The little stoic said expressionlessly, remove the title of Saintess. The corner of Feng Hepping's mouth twitched. He suppressed his laughter and looked at the little fellow. He nodded and said, Since the Saintess insists, then Feng Hepping and the clansmen will call you Lord Jojo from now on. The Chief Grand Elder's lips curled into a smile as he spoke. Arbor! Exclamation point. Who told you to call him Mr. Jojo? Let me ask you, why do you insist on calling me Saintess? She couldn't understand this question no matter how much she thought about it. Sir has saved our clan's sacred object. In our old ancestors' sacred teachings, if a woman who can communicate with the 10,000-year phoenix tree without any obstruction appears after 1,000 years, she will be worshipped as our clan's Saintess. Now, not only did you save the phoenix tree, you even made it crawl out of the ground willingly and run away with you. You are definitely our Phoenix clan's one and only Saintess. Feng Hepping's proud expression inexplicably stung Arbor's eyes. Don't you guys feel that running away is a pain in the ass? What's with that proud face? You guys aren't angry? She asked cautiously. Feng Hepping immediately shook his head. Chapter 3895. The 10,000-year-old Phoenix Wood is not a private possession of our clan. It can completely have its own subjective consciousness. No matter what it wants, we have to support it unconditionally. Arbor, as expected of the Wind clan who stood aloof from worldly affairs. If it were any other clan, after thousands of years of inheritance, who would really listen to the words of the old ancestor, the 10,000-year-old Phoenix would ran away just like that. If it were anyone else, who wouldn't hate Arbor to the core? This group of Wind clan members, if it wasn't that their brains weren't working well, then they were really naive. Looking at Feng Hepping's sincere face, Arbor nodded speechlessly. All right, then pay attention to yourselves during the battle. She didn't want these Wind clan members to suffer any injuries for no reason. After all, they were a 1,000-year-old clan that had been in seclusion for a long time and had to be passed down from generation to generation. They couldn't be destroyed in such an inexplicable battle. All right, this subordinate will let the clan leader and Feng Zhangfei come over and follow Sir Jojo to protect you. No, Lady Qiao Qiao's voice slowly became softer, because she found that this funny great elder Feng didn't listen to her at all. He directly ran out after saying those words and shouted Feng Zhangqing and Feng Zhangfei's names like a loudspeaker. It wasn't long before Qiao Mu expressionlessly faced Feng Zhangfei's handsome face, which had a protruding nose and vertical eyes. Feng Zhangqing didn't say anything. He just looked at the unharmonious atmosphere between his younger brother and Arbor with some amusement. Is there anything we need to do now? Feng Zhangqing asked. There's nothing we need. Yin walked over expressionlessly and reached out to pull her little wife to her side. She looked up and down at Feng Zhangqing and his brother with a strange expression. The 1,000-year-old Phoenix clan has been isolated from the world for a long time. You should stay in your clan's land. The world today is very dangerous. Feng Zhangqing glanced at Yin indifferently and chuckled. If you don't come out to experience the world, how will you know how big the world is? The Phoenix clan has been silent for too long. It's time to come out and walk around. Arbor looked at Yin and then at Feng Zhangqing and his brother. The atmosphere between the three of them is not very harmonious. Should Sama say a few words to lighten the atmosphere? However, before he could say anything, he heard a huge tremor coming from outside. The entire 3-story wooden building shook a few times because of this tremor. The frightened voices of many adventurers came from the small courtyard. Yin subconsciously reached out to hug the little fellow's waist. Her phoenix eyes narrowed as she turned her head to look at the distant sky. He saw a group of harpies flapping their huge black wings. They looked like flying monsters as they led the horde of beasts to surround the small base. Amidst the rumbling, a cloud of dust was created by the stampede of beasts, wantonly filling the small fortification. The fence outside the fortifications was trampled flat in a matter of minutes. The outer circle of wooden pavilions also trembled and collapsed to the ground, with fragments flying everywhere. The people who could participate in the battle had been divided into more than a dozen teams at this time, guarding in one direction. The first elder of the Phoenix clan brought more than 300 people, all of whom were cultivators above the god realm. Their momentum was like a rainbow, naturally not comparable to the motley crowd next to them. Arbor looked up. At this time, the sky had been completely occupied by the harpies. It was just like the sculptures under the Happy Village. Chapter 3896. Harpies were extremely hideous. A head the size of a fist was supported by a slender and withered neck. Their facial features were practically all squeezed together. However, their backs were very broad, and they had a pair of enormous wings that spanned more than a dozen meters. Their malicious eyes stared fixedly at the numerous adventurers below. Kiki. The harpies let out a series of deafening screeches, and the leader suddenly flew back and forth in the air. Quickly look, there's someone on the back of that harpy. There was someone, and it was an acquaintance. Arbor icily looked at the man who was stepping on the leader's back. A devil mask covered his entire face, and his scarlet ghost eyes were currently staring at her faintly. The Ghost Face Hall Master who had led people to ambush them at the Red River Canyon had appeared again. Arbor coldly looked at him, and when her gaze landed on his ghost mask, she couldn't help but frown. This Ghost Face Hall Master should be an extremely prominent person in the Heavenly Fate Empire. His appearance here further confirmed Duan Yu's guess. They must have run here to delay them. Something major must have happened in the 3 provinces if they were all kept in the Phoenix Woods. The Ghost Face Hall Master coldly looked at the people below, and he raised his right hand and heavily released it. Rapid screeches came from midair, and countless harpies swooped down to attack the crowd. Yin didn't say much to them. She pulled Sir Jojo behind her and pushed him 3 feet away. She raised her hand to summon Raven Moon. The sword's body was jet black and slender, and a lone light flashed past with a light wave. The Ghost Face Hall Master coldly shouted and suddenly stepped down from the back of a harpy. He took the lead and charged at Yin with his sword. With a ding, he had already exchanged blows with Yin in the blink of an eye. With just one strike, the Ghost-Faced Hall Master felt the web between his thumb and forefinger turn numb. When he looked down, he saw that a gap had appeared on his spiritual weapon after just one exchange. His heart shuddered, and he didn't dare to clash with the sacred weapon. The sword light circled around Yin. You're quite bold, aren't you? Yin sneered. Instead of hiding behind the harpy's back, this guy actually dared to jump down and throw his life away. Then let him fulfill his wish. The bombardment of the Red River Canyon's spirit stone cannons was still vivid in his mind. Yin liked to settle any grudges with her own hands. Yin's sword technique had a total of 7 moves, the essence of which was that it was unpredictable and fast. At the end of the move, you simply couldn't see his shadow. The sword technique was covered with a layer of black fire. Everywhere it went, only dark sword shadows could be seen. It was almost invincible. 2 masked men stood on the back of the harpy and watched anxiously. One of them sneered. We told him not to go down, but he insisted on going down. How can that crown prince of the divine land be such a good-natured person? Hallmaster won't lose to Prince Mo, right? The masked man who sneered said, We're not his match. Speaking in hindsight, the other man turned and glared at him angrily. Why didn't you say so earlier? What should we do now? Do you think Hallmaster will listen to me if I say so? The masked man sneered. You're the one who was trained by Hallmaster. He's been suspicious of me for a long time. That's because you were disrespectful to Hallmaster. You're clearly placed by Master to monitor Hallmaster. Chapter 3897. The masked man let out a cold laugh. That's because you guys aren't decisive enough. What did I say last time in the Red River Canyon? Did anyone listen to me? You clearly knew that there was no hope of capturing them alive, yet you still did that. Master's meaning is that we don't care if they live or die. The masked man looked at the person beside him coldly. That's what I'm thinking right now. No, Hallmaster Gong didn't say that he wanted their lives. Them. The masked man laughed mockingly. I think that you guys have become muddle-headed because of that little girl. The masked man said coldly. I saw it last time in the Red River Canyon. If it wasn't for that little girl, would you guys be so hesitant and wishy-washy? Right now, I have reason to suspect that because of this little evildoer, you guys won't sincerely work for Master this time. After all, last time in the Red River Canyon, the situation was clearly good and everything was arranged properly. But in the end, you guys were still killed and escaped safely. Vice Hallmaster Goe, don't forget that from the beginning to the end, Hallmaster Gong was the one in charge of this matter. You don't have the qualifications to talk nonsense here. The other person said angrily. The masked man called Vice Hallmaster Gay sneered and raised his hand, taking out a token with the image of a harpy on it. The dispatch token is in my hands. If you guys are still hesitating today, I'll give you the best order. The other masked man's pupils shrunk, and he subconsciously clenched his fist. Vice Hallmaster Gay. Vice Hallmaster Meng. Vice Hallmaster Gue's malicious gaze locked onto him. What are you worried about? From your current performance, I have reason to suspect that you guys are just playing with Prince Mo and not sincerely completing the mission. Vice Hallmaster Meng's cold gaze fell on Vice Hallmaster Gay. You're thinking too much. Ha ha ha. Vice Hallmaster Gue stopped laughing and said coldly, It's best that you're not. He lowered his head and glanced at the ghost-faced Hallmaster, who had already exchanged dozens of blows with Prince Mo and was clearly at a disadvantage. With a sneer, he raised the harpy token in his hand. All members of Heavenly Fate, listen to my command. Kill everyone below with all your might. Vice Hallmaster Meng glared at the masked man. At this moment, the ghost mask Hallmaster who was fighting with Mo Yin naturally heard Ghost Vice Hallmaster's voice. She turned to look at him coldly. Vice Hallmaster Gue only raised his malicious eyes and revealed a cold smile at him. On the other hand, Sir Jojo's eyes were fixed on the sword light, his face expressionless. Duan Yu glanced down at her and reassured with a chuckle, Jojo, don't worry. Crown Prince Lian's skills aren't something this fellow can handle. Jojo, on the other hand, didn't seem to hear him. His big, watery eyes were fixed on the field, and his face was expressionless. Duan Yu looked down at her and let out a long sigh. Jojo's thoughts were truly extremely easy to guess. If she fell in love with someone, then she would give her heart and soul to that person. Nothing else seemed to be able to enter those big, bright eyes of hers. Duan Yu was irritated and couldn't resist roaring at Emolian. Are you done yet? Can't you see that the others are fighting among themselves? Hurry up and kill the next step. Chapter 3898. She was still in the mood to tease others at a time like this. At this time, The two of them had already exchanged more than 100 moves. Duan Yu couldn't help but feel impatient, so he grumpily roared at Emolien. The two swords collided violently, and a dang sound was heard. The Ghostface Hall Master looked down and saw that his perfectly fine spirit weapon had been broken into two from the middle. Emolien pointed her sword at the Ghostface Hall Master's chest, and the scorching black flames were about to strike him. Suddenly, there was a rapid whistle, and a flying dagger as thin as a cicada's wing flew over and blocked Raven Moon's momentum with a clink. However, who could withstand Raven Moon's might? It merely blocked its momentum slightly. Raven Moon abruptly flew up and clashed with that thin dagger in the sky. With Raven Moon's ferocious strength, it naturally knocked that dagger to the ground. It hovered in the air, and the sword hummed. It was like a peerless monarch overlooking everything with disdain. Emolien beckoned with her hand, and Raven Moon swooped down and landed firmly in Emolien's hand. On the other side, Vice Hall Master Ming, who had jumped down from the harpy's back and saved the Ghostface Hall Master at the critical moment, didn't care about the pugilistic rules of winning with numbers. His figure flew diagonally into the arena, and he slashed a wooden spike in Emolien's direction. However, he swiftly retreated and pulled the Ghostface Hall Master back onto the harpy's back. Sir Jojo glared at them darkly. The little fatty had already jumped out from the side and cursed loudly. "Fuck you. Heavenly luck really isn't anything good." He actually disregarded the pugilistic world's rules and wanted to win with numbers. Fatty, don't overestimate them. It's not the first time these people won with numbers. Which time didn't they throw away their armor and obediently retreat to their nest? Lu Yu echoed with a smile. Vice Hall Master Ming's face darkened. "Huh, you guys are too confident. Lousy will kill all of you today." Naturally, no one will know how many times Tian Yun has failed before. This is the song of victory played by the victor. Swish! Suddenly, a ball of divine power flew towards the group of harpies in the sky. Vice Hall Master Ghost's eyelids twitched, and he shouted, "Everyone back off!" After a loud rumble, a thick black smoke appeared in the sky. Some of the harpies were burned and fell from the sky unsteadily. When the people below saw this, they hurriedly put up their own defensive barriers and tried their best to kill the harpies that were falling from the sky. "I don't care about anything else. I'll just hack them to death when they come down." Everyone, there's no need to talk about morality with them. Everyone has the right to kill evil spirits. The little fatty roared and swung his double-headed hammer, smashing the head of a harpy. Bang, 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 bang. Everyone turned around and saw that their surroundings had turned into ruins. It was originally a small fortification, but after the fences outside were flattened and the wooden building was smashed into pieces, all of them were standing in ruins. Behind them, only the small wooden building and arbor remained. The rest had turned into ruins. Everyone's pupils constricted as they looked over. From afar, they saw a black horde of beasts, big and small, flying and crawling, surrounding the few thousand of them. It was as though they were struggling to survive on a desolate island with no one to rely on. Their surroundings were completely surrounded. Chapter 3899. They could only escape with their lives if they opened up a path of blood. Other than this, there was no other way. Everyone took a deep breath and raised the weapons in their hands. One by one, they moved toward the vicinity. When the beast horde started to attack the crowd, the people on the periphery started to panic. They wouldn't be human if they didn't panic when they saw ferocious beasts more than 3 feet tall, trampling toward them. "Don't panic." Xiao Mu's icy voice was tinged with a faint chill. "As long as you don't panic, they won't be able to charge over." Following her words, everyone saw the beast horde that blotted out the sky and covered the earth crash into a barrier 1 foot away from them. As expected, they were all blocked outside. A large-scale defensive talisman matrix was erected around everyone. Under the faint sunlight inside the forest, this defensive barrier emitted a transparent luster. It flickered as if light was flowing through it. Everyone's shrunken hearts finally relaxed slowly. Their eyes shone as they looked incredulously at the defensive barrier that appeared around them. Heavens, when did this defensive talisman matrix be reinforced? They really didn't know anything about it. Boom! Boom! The first batch of beasts that crashed into the defensive barrier was actually sent flying and crashed heavily into the beast horde in the distance. After a wave of tearing and roaring, this batch of beasts that fell into the beast horde clashed with the beast horde in the middle and killed each other for a while. The thick smell of blood permeated the air. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Under the lead of their respective team leaders, they pounced at the beast horde at the front and brandished their swords without hesitation. The defensive talisman matrix protected them. If they didn't attack now, when would they? Nearby, superhumans and body cultivators pounced forward to fight with the large beasts at the front. In the distance, rows of spiritual cultivators stood solemnly as they launched waves of the 5 spirit powers into the distance. Water, fire, earth, wood, and thunder. The 5 spirit powers complemented each other. When they crashed into the beast horde, they immediately caused a large-scale massacre in a large area. Vicehall Master Ghost looked down at this scene from above, and a cold glint appeared in the corners of his eyes. His extremely severe gaze landed on the little stoic, and he suddenly pointed at her. Vicehall Master Meng was supporting the Ghostface Hall Master. When he saw the Ghostface Hall Master's actions, his eyelids twitched. "What are you doing?" This person actually dared to lay his hands on a young lady. Was he crazy? Vicehall Master Gue laughed coldly and said, "Indecisiveness will only lead to chaos. This subordinate is helping Hall Master Gong to cut the Gordian knot. If he killed this little stoic, the defensive talisman array would naturally be broken, and killing those good-for-nothings would be as easy as catching turtles in a jar. Furthermore, when dealing with this young lady, he was able to cause the minds of the experts by her side to be greatly disturbed." Vicehall Master Gue could not help but secretly praise himself. This was simply killing many birds with one stone. "Stop!" The Ghostface Hall Master shouted coldly. "Hall Master Gong, your subordinate has the Eagle Body dispatching order. I hope that you can forgive me for not listening to your orders during this critical period." After saying that, Vicehall Master Gue waved his hand, and a few more harpies swooped down and surrounded the little girl. "You! Yes! Search! Die!" The Ghostface Hall Master shouted angrily. "It's you who harbored disloyalty and refused to work for Master obediently." Vicehall Master Gue's face instantly contorted. "If it weren't for your indecisiveness in handling matters last time." Chapter 3900. How could Elder Tan's clone and a part of his soul be so easily annihilated? Hall Master Gong snorted. "This Hall Master has already received the punishment due to my erroneous decision." "That's right." Vicehall Master Meng also said furiously, "Since Hall Master Gong has already come out of Purgatory Valley, that means the Red River Canyon incident has already been completely covered up. What exactly are your intentions for harping on it so relentlessly?" Vicehall Master Gue waved his hand and sneered. "This subordinate is doing this for Qianyun's sake. If we don't get rid of this girl today, she will only increase our troubles in the future. This subordinate is merely making an early decision for everyone's sake. Kill her." With this command, countless harpies swooped down. Arbor expressionlessly watched the harpies swooping down. Her small face was devoid of joy, anger, or grief as she watched coldly from the sidelines. From beginning to end, besides throwing out a ball of divine energy, she hadn't made a move. She had been firmly protected behind the Crown Prince, Duan Yu, Mu Xingqian, and the others, so she didn't have a chance to attack. Although their cultivation bases were high, they were now facing an overwhelming number of eagle-bodied monsters. As the saying went, even 2 fists would find it difficult to fight 4 hands, let alone now that so many harpies were swarming over. As time passed, even the little fatty and the others couldn't help but feel chills run down their spines. They inwardly grumbled bitterly, wondering how long they could last. The little stoic's face was icy, and the fury in her heart climbed up bit by bit. So infuriating. They actually dared to gang up on her, while she was advancing to the star domain realm? Did they really think that she, Arbor, was a pushover? Jojo, take Xian and the others and leave using the transportation talisman matrix first. Mu Xingqian pulled his sister back a few steps. With a wave of his sword, he chopped off half of a harpy's head. Those harpies moved at lightning speed, and their claws tore through the people present amidst the swishing wind. If it weren't for the defensive talisman matrix, the teams inside the base would have suffered countless casualties. I'm not leaving. Madame Jojo threw away her brother's hand and raised her head. Her cold eyes stared at Vice Hall Master Ghost, who was hovering in the air. This person wanted to take her life, so how could she let him leave Phoenix Wood Forest alive? Jojo, Duan Muqing grabbed her hand. It's too messy here. Don't be rash. When he saw the look in her eyes, he knew that the little girl wanted to take revenge on the spot. That Ghost Vice Hall Master kept sending the harpies down to attack Jojo, and it was obvious that the little girl hated him. He was worried that she would impulsively jump into the air and go deep into the enemy's territory, falling into someone's trap. Of course, Arbor wasn't that stupid. He turned around and glanced at Duan Muqing. I have an idea. Duan Yu put away the crow bone fan in his hand and looked back at the little fellow. Those harpies seemed to hold a grudge against him, and Mo Lien for being ruthless and killing several of their companions without any hesitation. Right now, they were wantonly attacking him and Mo Lien. With the addition of new enmity and old hatred, the harpies attacked even more ferociously. Duan Yu couldn't help but frown when he couldn't send a guy who was hit by a concealed weapon flying with 3 consecutive penetrating bone nails. What a valiant physique. It was unknown what kind of medicine was used to create these monsters, but their current physique could rival that of a half-step immortal bone. Swords and sabers were useless, so they could only use the 5 spirit origins to attack. Of course, it was completely useless if they only attacked their limbs. Chapter 3902. Whose inner world could contain such colossal creatures, and as many as 10 of them? Don't joke around. No one could do it, all right? The little crown princess stood at the foot of the statue, expressionlessly. Suddenly, she raised her hand, and a golden statue that had completely peeled off the stone statue appeared beside her again. Honestly speaking, the sudden appearance of these 11 statues in such a small place could no longer contain anything else. Arbor floated up and pointed at the harpies in the sky. Kill them. Everyone's eyelids twitched slightly. After several explosions, the stone powder on the outer layer of the 10 statues peeled off, revealing the golden skin inside. Like female generals wearing golden armor, the 10 golden men rapidly broke free from the restraints of the defensive barrier and leaped into the air. Arbor climbed onto the 11th golden man's shoulder and sat down. She said expressionlessly, "Uncle Master, they ganged up on me just now." A large sword appeared in each of the 10 golden men's hands at the same time, and they slashed at the harpies without any explanation. Vice Hall Master Gui's pupils constricted, and he simply could not believe the scene before him. Boom, boom, boom. Following a series of loud tremors in the air, the harpies were caught off guard and scattered rapidly by the 10 golden men. A golden man that was 30 feet tall turned to look at the harpies expressionlessly. Under their incredulous gazes, he slashed down with his sword, and a sword gleam quickly split the heads of 3 harpies in half. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they stared at the scene before them in disbelief. Was this the young crown Prince Consort's strongest trump card? Could it be that these golden men were also created by soaking them in medicine? Did the little crown princess create them herself, or something else? Everyone was puzzled, but they could not help but click their tongues when they saw the sudden one-sided collapse of the battle before them. Too powerful. There was actually such a pure power attack in the world. A golden man that was 30 feet tall raised his sword, and the sword gleam instantly expanded, sweeping past the harpies. The exploding radiance drew a circle of light in the air, almost blinding everyone's eyes. If there were only 10 golden men, they might not be able to turn the entire battle around. What about 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 more than 100 golden men rushed into the sky one after another to fight the eagle-bodied swarm. When the 300 golden men leaped into the air and crashed into the harpy men, they completely scattered the harpy men. The crowd below was silent. The 300 or so phoenixes who were fighting the beast horde also stopped and looked at their holy maiden in disbelief. The first elder Feng Hepping's face was flushed red as he praised, "You are indeed worthy of being our holy maiden." It turns out that she has taken in so many golden men with super strong combat power. Feng Zhongfei silently closed his mouth, momentarily speechless. When he recalled how he had previously looked at the little stoic's nose and her eyes weren't her eyes, why did he suddenly feel like his balls hurt? If he really pissed off the stoic face, he could summon a few golden men at any time. He would definitely be beaten up until he couldn't find his bearings, right? When the 800 golden statues fought against the harpies at the same time, not to mention whispers, even the sound of breathing was suppressed. The little stoic sat on Ant Master Golden Man's shoulder and raised her head to watch the vigorous battle. Chapter 3903. She sighed with some melancholy in her heart. Unfortunately, Uncle Master's golden statues could only last for 24 hours in the outside world, which was one day. However, after storing them in the star field, she could temporarily stop the calculation of time. However, they could only last for 24 hours at most, so she had to use them sparingly. There were only about 2,000 statues left in her inner world. Moreover, judging from the situation, the golden statues were stored in her inner world because she had used them at some point in time. Although she had no recollection of it now, her instincts should be correct. She didn't know how much time the statues in her inner world had left. Perhaps they would disappear in a few hours. Melancholy Immerse blinked and put away the Raven Moon sword in his hand. His figure floated in midair as he met his wifey's eyes. He reached out his hand. "Jojo." Arbor glanced at him and reluctantly jumped up. He smiled and reached out to embrace her. "Little rascal." He smiled and held her hand as they landed on the ground. At this moment, the harpies in the air were being chased around by the 800 golden statues. They were beheaded as soon as they saw them. Arbor watched expressionlessly for a while, then turned to look at the beasts outside the barrier that were eyeing them covetously. She frowned and said, "Why haven't these beasts retreated? If they had been summoned by the harpies, then it was obvious that the harpies were retreating in defeat and couldn't even take care of themselves. However, these beasts were still squatting there, as if they wouldn't stop until they were bitten to death." Arbor waved her hand. Everyone's jaws dropped as they stared at the Godstone cannon that had suddenly appeared in front of them. With a loud boom, the Godstone cannon blasted a hole in the middle of the beast horde. A thick smell of blood wafted through the air. The beast horde began to charge toward them in a frenzy. Arbor had purposely opened a door in the defensive glyph array. The beast horde that had surrounded them from all directions shrank toward the center and ran toward this door. They thought they could break through this door, but what awaited them was 3 consecutive cannon blasts. Even peak immortal venerables didn't want to fight against the Godstone cannon, let alone these little beasts of the spirit realm. After a few shots, all the beasts seemed to have come back to their senses from the bombardment. They straightened their butts and ran back like rats. Thus, those in front turned around and ran, while those behind swarmed forward. With this collision, both sides suffered casualties, and the scene became even more chaotic. All they saw was a cloud of dust and smoke, and the beasts were retreating at a very slow speed. Qiao Mu leisurely stopped and unhurriedly put the divine stone cannon back into her storage talisman. Who would have thought that a ferocious beast would suddenly rush in from the door and bite the person's arm when it saw him? The other party was startled and hurriedly raised his sword to fight with the beast. With the help of everyone's spirit energy, he was finally able to kill the tiger wolf-like beast. Panting heavily, he looked at the few shallow claw marks on his arm that were left by the beasts, revealing a faint trace of blood. That person's face trembled, and he was in a rage. He couldn't help but roar at Arbor without thinking. "What's wrong with you? Don't you know to throw more godstones and blast the beast horde away? With his roar, everyone turned to look at him in astonishment. Chapter 3904. This person was Zhao Yi from the City of Shadows. He felt that he was extremely unlucky throughout the journey. As a proud son of heaven in the City of Shadows, he accompanied his little junior sister to the Phoenix Forest to pick herbs. In the end, what exactly did they encounter along the way? Not only did they not pick any proper herbs, but they also encountered danger everywhere. After finally waking up his little junior sister, he was forced to fight against the beast horde with this motley crew. His arms were so sore that he almost couldn't lift them up. He was actually attacked by a ferocious beast. Not only did he almost lose his life, but his arms were also scratched. He didn't know if he would be infected with something bad. He had nowhere to vent his anger, and now that he caught that stoic face, it was truly a new grudge and old hatred. He couldn't help but curse at the slightest disagreement. He didn't have to be afraid of the crown princess of the divine prefecture. Their City of Shadows was a colossus that transcended the 3 states. If they really went up against each other, it wasn't as if he didn't have the ability to resist. Seeing that everyone was looking at him as if he was crazy, Zhao Yi almost flew into a rage out of humiliation. Isn't that the case? Why are you all looking at me? Zhao Yi pointed at Arbor and said angrily, "Didn't you all notice?" She could have summoned those golden figures from the beginning, but she waited until the end of the battle. She was only willing to summon them to fight against those harpies when she had no other choice. And the Godstone cannon. She kept it in her storage talisman all this time. She clearly didn't care about the use of the Godstone cannon, but were they looking down on Sir Jojo for not doing a good deed and not summoning the golden figures from the beginning to help them fight against those harpies? But on what basis? Marshall Uncle's golden figures had a time limit. Once they were used up, they would be useless. On what basis did they think that they could enjoy the fruits of victory brought by others without paying any price? How laughable! Arbor threw out a purple storage talisman without saying a word, temporarily storing the golden figures in it. An indifferent gaze swept over Zhao Yi, who was still cursing. His icy cold gaze instantly shut Zhao Yi's mouth, and his face turned a little red from holding back his anger. The little stoic's disdainful and apathetic gaze made him feel as if he was an underground sludge that was being disliked. "You, what's with that look? Can't you see the look of disdain in my eyes?" Qi Xianxian pushed Zhao Yi away with one hand as he stepped forward. She crossed her arms and sneered. "Look at you, what do you look like? Flustered and exasperated. You're complaining that we're too late? Who has the obligation to do these things for you? What does your life or death have to do with our team? Why don't you just die far away?" "You." Zhao Yi's eyes were red, and he looked like he wanted to eat someone. "What's wrong with me? Did I say something wrong? Who do you think you are? We can attack whenever we like. What can you do about it?" Little Fatty and the others were worried that Xian would be taken advantage of, so they quickly rushed forward. They frowned and blocked Zhao Yi, who was charging forward, shoving him rudely. "I'm warning you, punk. If you dare to attack now, we'll kill you." "Senior brother Zhao." A weak voice slid past everyone's ears like the buzz of a mosquito. Xiao walked forward while supporting her young miss, Mu Xiaoxue, who looked like she would fall with the wind at any moment. "Everyone, I'm truly sorry." Chapter 3905. Senior brother is also impatient and is afraid that those beasts will charge in and hurt me. Senior brother only wants to protect me. Please forgive me if my words are too extreme. Qi Xianxian saw her sickly appearance and didn't want to continue arguing with her. She was a spirit realm cultivator and didn't need to bicker with a normal girl. Qi Xianxian shut her mouth and left in a huff. Little Fatty and the others looked at Zhao Yi warningly for a few seconds before they all turned and left. Mo Yin cast a cold gaze from afar, causing Zhao Yi's expression to change slightly as he shut his mouth. Lin Zhen'er saw this and hurriedly advised, "Senior brother Zhao, don't provoke that crown princess anymore." She didn't want to provoke such a terrifying person with countless trump cards. To be honest, it was all thanks to the Crown Prince Consort's group that they were able to survive the beast tide this time. Zhao Yi glared angrily at Linja. Junior sister Lin, even you were scared out of your wits by that woman. Am I wrong? This woman could have used the golden statue to fight against the enemy earlier, but she waited until we were all so tired that we couldn't even lift our arms before she was willing to release the golden statue. Zhao Yi said angrily, I think she has a vicious heart and doesn't care about the lives of others. Senior brother, Mu Xiaoxue called out softly, we should think of a way to leave this place as soon as possible. We can talk about other things later. That crown princess has an eccentric personality and doesn't know much about the world. She does things according to her own preferences and does as she pleases. However, she has many experts by her side. We shouldn't act rashly. Mu Xiaoxue glanced at Arbor. With so many Phoenix clan members and the Imperial School students all on their side, they had no chance of winning in terms of numbers. Senior brother, let's go back to the City of Shadows first. We can talk when we get back. Mu Xiaoxue's face was full of worry. Zhao Yi immediately felt very comforted and patted his junior sister's soft hand. Don't worry, junior sister. I will protect you well. We'll listen to you. We'll go back now. He would think of a way to deal with that woman when he got back. The crown princess of the Divine Land. Haha, without this title, she would not be able to be so proud. Why is he so annoying? Emolien frowned slightly and retracted her gaze from Zhao Yi. She held Arbor's hand and complained softly. Such a vulgar person should be dealt with as soon as possible to prevent future troubles. Ignore people with mental problems, Arbor said faintly. The horde of beasts has retreated. The royal school's students exclaimed in joy. Just now, everybody had fought against the beasts for more than 4 hours with the help of the defense rune arrays. Although their clothes were even more ragged now, their faces were brimming with vigorous smiles. No matter whether they made it to the final round of the preliminary round of the Heaven Yuan ranking or not, they all felt that it was worth the trip. Zither, young master, and the others are here. A student suddenly called out. Everyone turned their heads and looked behind them. They saw Zither, young master, and second young master strolling over from the ruins. Wearing the elegant academy uniform, the two of them were as white as snow, untainted by even a speck of dust. As they walked through the ruins, it was as if they were walking on a street full of flowers. Chapter 3906. Both of them had very leisurely expressions as they walked over unhurriedly, looking like they were stepping through ruins and soaking in the prosperity of the world. Sigh, truly beautiful people. They were beautiful no matter where they walked. This thought inexplicably popped up in everyone's minds. Whoever wore the same clothes would be the ugliest and most laughable. The two brothers walked over with their clothes fluttering. The eldest young sir's grinning gaze landed on Emolien and the others before finally settling on the little stoic. He waved a claw at her. Jojo, what happened on your side? What a coincidence. Duanyu lightly waved the raven bone fan in his hand and said with a grin, we just finished a group fight on our side, and you guys came. TSK, you really know how to rush to a gathering. Eldest young Sir Chin chuckled and cast a sidelong glance at Duanyu. He spread his hands and said, it can't be helped. This is probably just luck. Fuck luck again. Previously, because they picked up 2 phoenix flowers under the camphor tree, they couldn't get over this freaking luck joke anymore, right? Everyone glared angrily. Duanyu even turned his head and complained to the little girl as usual. Jojo, eldest Chin insulted me. The little girl didn't even think before shouting at eldest young Sir Chin. Why did you insult him? Everyone. Emolien twitched her mouth and tugged at her wife's small hand before irritably glaring at Duanyu. What was wrong with this punk? Where did he learn this bad habit? Chow, who habitually looked for him whenever something happened, had the same deep-rooted bad habits as Zhichun. The eldest young sir glanced at the little stoic aggrievedly. Stoic face, you're unfair. When did I insult him? He insulted me first. Arbor thought about it and agreed. But she just didn't like eldest Chin and Omega Katoku, these 2 fools. She humphed and didn't say anything else. At this time, 7th young Sir Chin, who was standing behind Omega Kitoku, couldn't help but narrow his eyes, and his expression changed slightly. He stared at the person behind Arbor's group and nearly blurted out in shock, "What happened to you?" Omega Kitoku's gaze landed on him at the same time. When they saw Seventh Chin's expression as if he had seen a ghost, they all cast their gazes in the direction he was looking at. On the other side, the fifth young master, who was as calm as water, was also dressed in the academy uniform. At this moment, he was standing behind Arbor with a tranquil expression. His cold gaze met Seventh Chin's, and a trace of mockery tugged at the corners of his lips. Naturally, Xiaomu also turned around to take a look. She suddenly narrowed her eyes and abruptly turned to look at Seventh Chin. "Why do you look so shocked?" "Oh, I understand." Arbor gently patted her husband's hand to make him let go of her. The little stoic took small steps forward and stared coldly at that seventh young master. "It's you." The eldest young sir looked back at Seventh Chin in confusion. "What is it?" Of all the people he could provoke, why did he have to provoke a little girl? "Eldest brother, I don't know what she's talking about." Seventh young master Chin promptly feigned innocence and shrunk behind eldest Chin Omega Kitoku. "Come out." Arbor pointed at Seventh Chin and disdainfully waved at eldest young Sir Chin, who was blocking her path. "Get out of the way." Eldest young Sir Chin blinked innocently. "What is it, Jojo?" The little girl raised her hand, and a shining black ferrule appeared in her hand. The eldest young sir was involuntarily startled. From the looks of it, the little girl was really going to be little 7-Up? The second young sir silently took a step back. His retreat was truly mindful, and he immediately opened up a path. Eldest young Sir Chin abruptly turned to glare at his second brother. Chapter 3907. This guy was quite sensible. When he saw that the little stoic was about to make a move, he immediately gave way to her. The second young master silently glanced at eldest Chin and completely ignored his contemptuous gaze. He silently retreated 2 more steps and didn't make a sound. "What exactly did you do to provoke her?" Eldest young Master Chin glared at his seventh brother in exasperation at his failure to live up to his expectations. At the same time, he kept signaling him with his eyes to hurry up and plead for leniency for him. Based on his familiarity with the stoic face, the little lady was actually a person with a hard face but a soft heart. If seventh brother was willing to give in, eldest brother, I really didn't do anything. Seventh young Master Chin retreated while running half a circle around the Chin family's team. He glared at Arbor and said, "On the other hand, she robbed our team not long after we entered the forest." A Royal Academy student rolled his eyes in exasperation and scoffed. "Is it strange? Our team was robbed 3 times by the Crown Princess. So what did we say? Isn't robbery normal?" "That's right. Robbery is normal. How can victory be determined if we don't rob? How can we obtain enough points to enter the finals if we don't rob?" Seventh young Master Chin was stupefied. He turned to those students who were talking noisily with an expression of, "Are you still human? How can you say that? Don't you think you're going overboard?" Seventh young Master Chin's eyes revealed fury. "You've all been brainwashed by her. I'm clearly the victim, so why are you all standing on her side?" The Royal Academy student who spoke earlier rubbed his nose and said, "It's you who said it strangely. That's right. It's a competition. Isn't it just you scamming me and I scamming you? You guys." Seventh young Master Chin was so angry that he almost couldn't breathe. "Shut up." Xiao Mu grumpily rebuked him. She then grimaced as she pressed closer to him with her ferrule. "Was I talking to you about that matter? Don't change the topic. If you're a man, then stand out if you have the guts." Seventh young Master Chin's originally innocent face stiffened in an instant. No matter which man it was, they wouldn't be able to tolerate this. Naturally, he could no longer continue to beat around the bush and change the topic, much less run away or retreat. Seventh Chin braced himself and slowly walked forward from the Chin family's ranks. He glared sternly at Arbor and said in a threatening manner, "What do you want to do? Since you like to break other people's limbs so much, I'll give you a big gift." "You dare!" Seventh Chin jumped in fright, and he retreated 2 steps in succession, adopting a fighting stance. Arbor took a step forward and looked at him with a sneer. He raised the ferrule in his hand and rushed forward like a ghost. Originally, he didn't want to meddle in the affairs of the Qin estate, but little Fifth Qin's ghastly appearance from before truly poked at her heart. She wanted to see what this person was capable of. Even if he obediently stayed out of trouble and lived his life obediently, would others still roll their eyes at him? Did the weak not have a way to survive? Did everything have to be done according to the preferences of the strong? Did ordinary people not even have the chance to take a look at this great world? The ferrule fell down from above, carrying a wisp of fire as it intensely rolled towards Seventh Qin's body. An enormous force abruptly bombarded Seventh Qin's chest, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 3908. She flew out like a sparrow hawk with its string cut. The fifth young master didn't know how others felt. He watched as Seventh Qin's figure drew a splendid arc under the sunset glow. He truly couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. Looking at that wanton figure in front of him, he took a few steps forward and coldly said, "I'm more proficient than you at using my strength to bully the weak." A ferrule broke that person's left arm. Little Fifth Qin inexplicably felt that this little lady's wanton demeanor was dazzling and eye-catching. He felt that he seemed to understand this person a little. At this time, the beast horde had all retreated. Night slowly descended, and the night breeze assaulted them. Coupled with the bloody stench on the ground, it was truly indescribable. Myers and his group, who knew how many beats slower, finally reached this small base. They looked at the wreckage on the ground with subtle expressions. Did no one tell us what happened? Alex turned to look in the little lady's direction. When Xianxian saw this, she immediately glared at him. What kind of expression is that? These corpses on the ground have nothing to do with our JoJo. Alex chuckled. How could it have nothing to do with them? Half of the corpses on the ground are probably your team's handiwork, right? Arbor didn't take Alex's slightly provocative gaze seriously and turned to ask Duanyu softly, "You're leaving right now?" Duanyu nodded and smiled at her. "Don't worry. We'll meet again at the academy very soon. Then let's also make a trip back." Arbor nodded and glanced at Emolien. The latter naturally nodded. Duanyu was probably right. That ghost-faced hall master of All Seer Academy must have other considerations for leaving them in Phoenix Grove with so many people. It was only right for them to make a trip back to Dragonflame City. They wouldn't receive any news if they stayed in Phoenix Grove. Even if they returned to the academy now, they wouldn't feel at ease. "Then we'll part for now." Duanyu glanced at them with a smile before glancing faintly at Emolien. "Take good care of her." Afterwards, he didn't dare to linger on the little stoic's face for too long and did his best to look away. He didn't say anything else and turned to leave. Long and frustrated, endless thoughts of love. He felt that if he stayed for even a moment longer, his reluctance to part would deepen, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. The little fellow pursed his lips and looked at his departing figure. He couldn't help but frown. In fact, she didn't know that the world was unpredictable. After this farewell, things would remain the same, but people would change. Can he do it alone? The little fellow asked worriedly. Emolien couldn't help but twitch her lips. She squeezed her little hand and said, "Jojo, what are you doing?" The little fellow asked snappily. Can we not always ask others if they can do it? Xiao Mu's small, expressionless face instantly cracked, and she turned her head to glare at that guy before spitting at him. Emolien looked at her with a smile. Seeing that her heavy heart had calmed down a little, she smiled and said, "Don't worry." He grasped her hand and pulled her along as he softly comforted, "He's not stupid. If he encounters any difficult problems, he'll naturally send us a message. Do you think he's a little white rabbit? He's more cunning than anyone." Arbor was silent for a moment before nodding and saying softly, "I only hope that everyone can live well." As for anything else, he didn't ask for anything else. Arbor restrained his gaze. Chapter 3909. In a corner of Phoenix Grove, several harpies fell from the sky in exhaustion and continuously rolled into the thicket. After a while, They stretched their bodies and crawled out with ashen faces. Vice Hall Master Meng supported Ghostface Hall Master with one hand and staggered out. Hurry, hurry, hurry. On the other side, Vice Hall Master Ghost, who had escaped from the fortification, was in a sorry state as he berated the harpy beneath him. He kicked and poked at him as he reprimanded. Get up. That harpy was clearly exhausted and couldn't get up at all. Vice Hall Master Ghost turned his head, and his eyes shot out a piercing light. What are you doing? Ghost-faced Hall Master coldly put away the communication talisman he had written and turned to look at him with ridicule in his eyes. Of course, we're properly reporting this incident. Report? Vice Hall Master Ghost anxiously stepped forward, wanting to snatch the communication jade talisman from Ghost-faced Hall Master's hands. What did you say? Hall Master Gong, what did you say? What did you say to the higher-ups? On the side, Vice Hall Master Meng sneered. Are you still scared? Didn't you even go against the Hall Master's wishes? Now that something happened, you're scared again. Vice Hall Master Meng sneered. Look at your cowardly appearance. You actually dare to mock me. What? Am I wrong? I already told you that the little stoic isn't as easy to deal with as you imagine. If you can't lock her divine sense and take away all the storage talismans on her, you'll definitely surprise me. She'll keep giving you surprises. Vice Hall Master Meng sneered. You. Vice Hall Master Ghost was so angry that he couldn't speak. How could he have known that this damned stoic face could actually hide so many gold figurines on her? Vice Hall Master Ghost turned his head and glared at Ghost-faced Hall Master. Hall Master Gong, did you already know about this stoic face's methods? What did you report to the higher-ups? Don't push all the responsibility onto me. You also have an undeniable responsibility for this incident. I'm only speaking the truth. The Ghost-faced Hall Master coldly glanced at him and said, You didn't listen to orders and ordered the harpies to attack without permission. As a result, 3,000 out of 4,000 harpies have died. How is it my responsibility? If it wasn't for your indecisiveness. Master's intention is to trap them. For the time being, they won't be able to leave Phoenix Grove for 3 days. The Ghost Mask Hall Master interrupted him and said coldly, You've ruined everything. No, Hall Master. Hall Master Gong. You could spend the next 3 months in Purgatory Valley. Ghost-faced Hall Master sneered. He turned around and left with Vice Hall Master Meng without looking at him. Vice Hall Master Gui was left behind, and he was so angry that he kicked a harpy. Feeling that one kick was not enough to vent his anger, Vice Hall Master Gui continued to kick the harpy who was groaning in pain. Trash, trash, a bunch of trash. He roared furiously in the forest. He turned his head and glared at the ruined fortification with a venomous glint in his eyes. That damned little stoic face. One day I'll definitely cut you down with my sword. I'll make you pay the price you deserve. The next morning, the person in charge of the fortification, Xia Gui, and a group of Imperial School students sent Arbor and Mo Lien to the entrance of Phoenix Grove. I feel like someone is talking about me behind my back. Chapter 39:10. The little fellow raised his hand and rubbed his little nose as he muttered to himself. Mo Lien smiled and released Yin Qi, allowing him to transform into a dragon and fly into the sky. She carried the little fellow and leaped onto the dragon's back. Arbor lowered his head and waved at Qi Xian and the rest. You guys go back to the academy first. Okay. Qi Xian, Little Fatty, and the rest stood beside a group of Royal School students and waved at her. Finish your business early and return to the academy early. Arbor nodded and waved goodbye to them. Yin Qi swung his dragon tail and brought the two of them out of the Phoenix Forest, leaping into the fluffy white clouds. Mo Yin looked back helplessly. Why do these people have to follow us? Arbor looked back and could not help but raise his hand to his forehead. More than 2,000 members of the Phoenix clan rode on their flying spirit beasts and followed them back to the city. She had told Feng Hepping before that she hoped that they would stay in the Phoenix Forest and cultivate properly. After all, that was a place that could only be found by chance. In the end, Feng Hepping rejected her and even vowed to her, wherever Sir Jojo goes, the Phoenix clan will follow. What else could she do? She had to drag more than 2,000 people back to the city. You don't have to care about them. Sir Jojo coughed softly and met Mo Lien's pitiful gaze. He could not help but twitch his mouth. I will make arrangements for them. How? Mo Lien glanced at him. Do you know that the great elder in your family looked at me, strangely, for almost an hour? Arbor quickly comforted her. Don't be angry, don't be angry. The great elder is not sensible. Why are you angry with an old man like him? Mo Lien hugged her in exasperation and amusement, and he repeatedly nuzzled her head. Why are you so annoying? Can't you be good and not go around provoking people? Sir Jojo immediately became angry. Who did I provoke? Do you know what else your clan's grand elder said to me? What did he say? Arbor looked at him in confusion. Feng Hepping said that you are the holy maiden of the Phoenix clan, and all the men of the Phoenix clan would be proud to marry you. There are more men in the Phoenix clan. There are 2,000 men in the Phoenix clan. The remaining women don't mind being your concubines. What? The corners of Arbor's mouth twitched. He quickly raised his hand and stroked his chest to calm him down. At the same time, he used his little fist to help him calm down. Feng Hepping, that old fool, don't bother with him. Later, he would beat this stinky old man to death. How could he scare Jojo's lotus like this? Don't worry, Jojo doesn't want anyone else. Jojo wants Jojo's lotus. As soon as the little fellow was done muttering, he looked up and saw Mo Lien's enlarged handsome face right in front of him. His eyes were filled with a deep smile. Oh, you lied to me. She knew it. How could the great elder be so disrespectful? How could he say such things to Jojo's lotus? Mo Lien pursed his lips. He had only repeated part of what Feng Hepping had said. Feng Hepping had obviously gone overboard. Okay? He knew that with so many pretty boys by Jojo's side, nothing good would come out of it. Why was he so pitiful? He had to compete with humans, with beasts, and now with an entire clan of birdmen. Now that he thought about it, he couldn't help but feel scared. Fortunately, he had the foresight to settle down with Xiao Yin in the lower star field. Chapter 39:11. Otherwise, how many people would he have to fight for his Jojo in the upper realm? If he didn't keep an eye on her, she might be caught and run away. By then, he would really go wherever he wanted to go thinking about it. He shuddered and quickly hugged his little wife tightly. Jojo, if we train in the future, you must be in the same team as me. Arbor suppressed the smile on her lips and rolled her eyes on purpose. That won't do. I can't leave Xian and the others behind. They're my teammates for life. I'll be your husband for life, too. Why am I so pitiful? Mo Lien thought to himself. He lowered his head and looked at her pitifully. Jojo, your husband will feel bad if you say that. If we're not in the same team in the future, what if you create another dragon, turtle, or Qilin in the Holy Land? What do you want your husband to do? Arbor buried her head in his arms and could not suppress the smile in her heart. Don't be funny, okay? I'm serious. Okay. I'm serious too. Arbor looked up and held his face. She blinked and looked at him. Husband, you're Jojo's most important person. I'll bring you with me wherever I go in the future. Mo Lien was instantly overjoyed and reached out to hug her. He nodded and said, Wife, I'm relieved to hear that. Wife, you're the best. I can't miss a second. Grand Elder Feng Ping, who had been following behind the young couple, had to eat the dust left behind by Seventh Yan's tail. His elderly face was tense. Her gaze fixated on the lovey-dovey couple in front of her, and she glared resentfully at Feng Chongqing, who was standing beside her. Chongqing, in terms of appearance and cultivation, you don't lose out to that crown Prince Mo by much. Why don't you work harder? Feng Zhongfei twitched his mouth and looked up at his elder brother. Along the way, he had been listening to Feng Hepping's nagging so much that his ears were about to grow calluses. But Feng Zhongqing had an indifferent expression. He let out a long sigh and said, Elder, don't come up with bad ideas. How could Chongqing steal someone else's love? I didn't ask you to snatch it. First Elder Feng blinked her dog eyes and said angrily, Our Phoenix Clan Saintess can have as many husbands as she wants." Feng Zhangfei burst out laughing and turned his head away, not looking at his elder brother's slightly twisted handsome face. It turned out that the great elder wanted his big brother, the current patriarch of the Phoenix Clan, to be the little girl's concubine. "Zhangfei, what are you laughing at?" The fire inexplicably burned Feng Zhangfei's body. Feng Zhangfei looked over innocently. You two brothers look pretty good, but why are you both so stubborn? When it's time to make a move, you must make a move. If we pass this village, how can we find that shop?" The great elder immediately activated his demonic voice, which pierced through one's mind. "Chongqing, it's not easy to find a girl these days, and it's even harder to find a good girl. Zhangfei, you should persuade your elder brother more in the future when you have time. And you're more quick-witted than your elder brother. Why don't you go and get close to the little girl first and lead the way for your elder brother? If you don't go, our Phoenix Clan has so many good men, and many people are lining up to marry the Saintess. Don't blame this old man for not reminding you. The Saintess is such a good girl. You can't find one outside. First Elder, please let me off." Chapter 39:12. Listen, Mo Yin poked his wife's head. "Great Elder is reprimanding clan leader Feng and the others again. It must have something to do with you." Xiaomu adjusted her posture in his arms and leaned against him comfortably. She absent-mindedly reached out to draw a talisman stroke by stroke in the air. After drawing one, she drew another. 2 defensive purple talismans floated around her. Mo Yin hugged her and asked with a smile, "What do you want to try?" "I want to see how long these talismans drawn in the air can last if they are not used. The talisman's power will not dissipate." Mo Yin raised his eyebrows. Just as he was about to speak, his fingers suddenly paused. Then, he took out a jade communication talisman from his sleeve. Something happened in Dragonflame City? Arbor turned to look at her husband. Seeing that his expression had suddenly turned cold, Jojo's intuition told him that something must have happened in Dragonflame City. Was Tianyun's action so fast? The Mu family was attacked in the middle of the night last night. Arbor's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Tianyun?" Mo Yin nodded. The two of them did not say anything more. They only urged Little Seven to speed up. There was nothing much to say. Since Tianyun had attacked the Mu family, then the Mu family was naturally doomed. It was hard to tell how he felt. Arbor did not expect that Tianyun's first target in Dragonflame City would be the Mu family. Among the 6 major aristocratic families, the Mu family was neither ranked at the top nor the bottom. Such a mediocre family was targeted by Tianyun and attacked first. Arbor could not help but suspect that everything Tianyun had done had something to do with her. Of course, although she thought so in her heart, she would not say it out loud. Suddenly, her expression changed slightly. "How's the ancestral hall?" Mo Yin was startled. Then, he shook his head and said, "Do you want me to ask?" Arbor thought about it and shook his head. "We'll talk about it when we get back." If those little beasts didn't have eyes and provoke her mother's peaceful sleep, she would let them know that sometimes death wasn't too scary. Living would only make people feel more pain. Her aura instantly turned cold, and her icy face was covered with a layer of killing intent. It took about 2 days to fly from Phoenixwood Forest to Dragonflame City. When Arbor and the others entered the city, it was already noon. Before entering the city, they contacted Xiao Yi and asked him to arrange for the Phoenix clan to rest in a mountain forest. Originally, he didn't have many people by his side. In terms of manpower, he mainly relied on the Crown Prince's Hidden Night Pavilion and Shadow Guards. Master Jojo was a little amused by the sudden appearance of more than 2,000 Immortal State followers. After making arrangements for the Phoenix clan, Arbor and Mo Yin rushed to the Winter Moon Mountain Forest in the western suburbs. At the foot of the mountain gate, the guards who were supposed to be stationed here were gone, and there were a few pools of blood on the ground. A group of guards was investigating here. Seeing the two of them, the guard captain hurried over and led the guards to bow respectfully. "Greetings, Crown Prince, Crown Princess. Fong Su, did you find anything?" Fong Su shook his head with a serious expression. Crown Princess, Tinyun's men acted 2 days ago at night. They came quickly and left quickly. By the time the palace sent reinforcements, they had all retreated. Arbor nodded. Since it was a surprise attack, they naturally needed speed. The Mu family? Crown Princess, go take a look. Fong Su sighed. Chapter 39:13. He didn't know what to say after such a thing happened. The little crown princess didn't have a good relationship with the Mu family, but now the Mu family was in such a miserable state that anyone who saw it would feel uncomfortable. Moreover, based on his observations along the way, the little crown princess was clearly a stubborn and soft-hearted little fellow. She wouldn't be happy with the Mu family in such a state. Arbor glanced at Fong Su and nodded. She casually instructed him, then pulled Prince Mo to the mountain gate. After entering the Mu family's mountain gate, Arbor frowned and whispered, "Should we call eldest brother back? I've already sent a message to eldest brother." After such a big thing happened, it was naturally not good to hide it from Mu Xingqian. If he didn't tell him after finding out about such a big thing, wouldn't he be upset for no reason? Arbor nodded and didn't think too much about it. As she walked over, she saw that the flowers and trees were all stained with blood. The corpses should have been cleaned up by the guards, but the bloodstains were all left behind. Arbor and Mo Lien walked all the way to the main hall. She stood there with lowered eyes and thought for a moment, then shook her head and said, "That's not right." "What's not right?" Mo Lien lowered her head and asked her. "The bloodstains are not right." Mo Lien blinked and then nodded in understanding. "You're saying that the Mu family has more than 1,000 people, but the bloodstains outside are less than 100 people?" Arbor nodded and looked up at her husband with sparkling eyes. Her husband was always the first to understand Sir Jojo's meaning. He was very smart. "Then were the Mu family hiding at this moment?" "Ask old man Xiaoyang, he should know." "Can we still enter Chuyang Pavilion?" Arbor immediately frowned. "That's right. We can't enter Chuyang Pavilion yet." But after knowing that most of the Mu family was actually fine, she wasn't so anxious. As the saying goes, good people don't live long, but scourges live for 10,000 years. The Mu family was probably like this. Arbor snorted. "Forget it. We'll talk about it when Big Brother comes." Arbor tugged at Emolien's hand and said, "Big Brother should know about the tunnels and secret places here." She was too lazy to open the talisman to look for those people, so she just let them hide inside for a few more days. From the looks of it, they were probably scared out of their wits by Tian Yun's people. But made sense. How could a great talisman clan that had been passed down for 1,000 years not have any methods to protect the lives of its disciples? They had worried for nothing. When Fong Su saw the two of them come out not long after entering, he couldn't help but ask in a daze, Crown Prince, Crown Princess, have you returned to the palace?" Arbor nodded. "I haven't seen my father for a long time. Let's go and see him." Fong Su's mouth twitched. It was a little strange that the little Crown Princess was suddenly so sensible. Emolian couldn't help but laugh out loud. "I'll send a message to Big Brother and tell him not to worry. Things shouldn't be as serious as we think." Arbor nodded non-committally. He glanced at Fong Su and casually tossed him a pill. "I see that you're about to advance. This is a level 10 spirit breakthrough pill. How did it feel to suddenly be hit by a pie that fell from the sky?" It was exactly this feeling right now. Fong Su turned his head dumbly and stared blankly for a long while before shouting at the young couple's departing figures. "Many thanks to the Crown Princess. Many thanks to Your Highness the Crown Prince." The group of small guards who were whispering beside him all looked at their commander with envious eyes. Commander Fong is really lucky. Chapter 39:14. Mo Lucian was a bit speechless as he gazed at the young couple sitting in his study. "Here." The little fellow threw a small jar of ointment in front of the emperor and cast him a sidelong glance. "If you have a headache, just pick your fingernail and smear it on your temples. In the future, don't use that shoddy powder of Madame Gua's to drive away the pain. Treating the symptoms, but not the root cause. The more it is treated, the more inferior it is." The veins on the emperor's forehead pulsed faintly, and he silently put the item back into his inner world. He asked his son and daughter-in-law coldly, "You went to see the Mu residence? How is the situation there?" "It's all right." The little fellow's tone really made the emperor wish for nothing more than to slap her to death. Glancing at his son, who was glaring at him like a tiger watching its prey, the emperor pressed between his brows and asked speechlessly, "How exactly is it?" "They probably used a talisman matrix to transport them out. Or they hid in an underground talisman matrix that we didn't discover," the little stoic expressionlessly stated. Then she said, "It won't be too late for Royal Father to summon them to clarify the situation when they are willing to crawl out of their rat hole." Mo Lushing speechlessly glanced at the little fellow. He was certain that if the Mu family's patriarch was sitting here and heard the little fellow say rat hole, he definitely wouldn't be in a good mood. How much did she despise the Mu family? The Mu family is just like that. They walk the path of the middle and shrink back in whatever they do. They don't even dare to stand up for their wife's family when others bully them. That's right. Prince Mo immediately nodded in solidarity with a common enemy. Our Mo family absolutely won't be like this. The emperor, just how strong is your desire to live? The little lady didn't beat around the bush to criticize you, yet you just had to blurt out this sentence. The emperor missed his wife a bit again. How did he feel stifled when he kept seeing his son and daughter-in-law flaunting their affection in front of him? The little stoic then took out a small box from her inner world and tossed it to the emperor. "This is a phoenix flower. As long as you refine it into a liquid, add a drop every time you refine pills, and you can guarantee a 100% success rate." Mo Lushing was instantly excited, and his stern face couldn't be maintained. He looked joyfully at Arbor. Is that the meaning? It's not what you think. With this flower ground into juice, even if it's a soul-returning pill, the success rate can reach 100%. Arbor said indifferently, "In 2 days, I will be able to make the soul-returning pill." Really, Mo Lusheng excitedly stood up. "Yes." Xiaomu nodded faintly. With the phoenix flower in hand, refining something like a resurrection pill above her level was a piece of cake. Mo Lusheng immediately turned his gaze to his son. Mo Lien pouted unhappily. "Of course it's true. Xiao Xiao wouldn't joke about this. You're not allowed to doubt my wife." Mo Lusheng laughed loudly. Good, good, good." The great emperor's laughter alerted Hu Dequan, who was standing outside the door. Eunuch who staggered and almost lost his balance. What did he hear? The great emperor was actually laughing so happily? How many years had it been since the great emperor laughed so heartily? A trace of joy surfaced in Eunuch Hu's heart. It looked like the crown princess and His Highness the Crown Prince brought some exceptionally good news to the great emperor. "I think the godly realm's advancement should be completed in these 2 days," Arbor said softly as he held Mo Lien's hand on the carriage heading to the Eastern Palace. Chapter 39:15. When the time comes, I'll go to Fish Orchid Planet to refine the pill. I can also save some time. Moreover, that place will definitely be rich in divine energy, so it'll be convenient for me to replenish my divine energy at any time while refining the pill. Mo Lien gazed at his wife tenderly. As she spoke, he listened and nodded repeatedly. His wife had thought of everything just so that they could succeed in refining the soul-returning pill on the first try. "Don't worry, even if we can't do it the first time, we'll definitely be able to refine it a few more times. You and your mother will be able to see each other very soon." Jojo. Mo Lien pulled her into his arms and gently caressed her soft little face. "It's my fortune to be able to hold hands with you in this life." Arbor tilted her head and pinched his cheek. "What silly things are you saying?" She nuzzled in his arms and suddenly giggled. "Mother will definitely call you little glutinous dumpling, right? You must have looked strong and chubby when you were young. Just thinking about it makes me a little cute." Mo Lien. The two returned to the Eastern Palace hand in hand to rest. Before going to bed, Arbor recalled something and instructed Li Yi to call Chun Yi over tomorrow. She thought of some things, so she still planned to clarify them. Song Prefecture. The water veins that meandered like jade slowly flowed past, following the current towards the direction of the Sea of Forgetfulness. Rushing forward without turning back, it had been raining in the Imperial City for the past few days. The continuous drizzle was like a faint mist that dissipated with the wind the moment it touched the body. Duan Yu walked towards noble consort Duan's residence with a smile while holding a small brocade box. He thought to himself, I haven't seen my mother for a long time, so I must properly coax her later. In the winding corridor, a cool breeze accompanied by the drizzle slid past his handsome face. Hurried footsteps came from behind him. Duan Yu glanced to the side, and a long purple robe slowly brushed across the ground. Behind him, little Kuzi and Aunt Yuanjun hurried over. Both of their faces were slightly pale. Xiao Kezi even went up to stop him without thinking. Your Highness, where are you going so early in the morning? Duan Yu glanced at him suspiciously before replying aloofly. Of course I'm going to see Mother. Aunt Yuanjun was not as flustered as Xiao Kezi. She took a few steps forward, steadied herself, and bowed in greeting. Your Highness, it's still early. Imperial Consort Nyang Nyang might not have woken up yet. Moreover, you've been traveling for several days and only returned to the palace late last night. It's better for you to return to the limitless palace and rest for 2 days before going to greet. The more Aunt Yuanjun spoke, the softer her voice became. She almost didn't dare to meet the man's sharp gaze. Duan Yu tilted his head slightly, his doubtful gaze circling the two of them. You're obstructing us in every way possible, but did something happen? He was a very intelligent person. A change in the expression of the palace maids and eunuchs around him could immediately attract his attention. Duan Yu's heart tightened, and he coldly berated, Move aside. Xiao Kezi scrambled to his knees and hugged his leg. He anxiously said, Your Highness, don't go, don't go. Don't, Your Highness. I beg you, don't go. Xiao Kezi wept bitterly as he hugged his leg, but Duan Yu stubbornly dragged him along. Aunt Yuanjun turned her head slightly and secretly wiped the corners of her eyes with her sleeve. She braced herself with reddened eyes and stepped forward. Your Highness, please listen to this servant. Even if you go to the Imperial Consort bedchamber right now, you won't be able to find her. Duan Yu abruptly turned his head. Hurry and hand over all your monthly tickets. Chapter 39:16. Duan Yu abruptly turned his head, and his icy gaze landed on Yuanjun. His voice trembled, and his brows furrowed. He enunciated each word clearly. My mother, where is she? Yuanjun heavily kowtowed to the ground and replied in a trembling voice, I don't dare to deceive your highness. Her Majesty is currently in the Imperial Mausoleum on Lonely Mountain. She has been buried. Duan Yu staggered and nearly fell backwards. Xiao Kezi, who was hugging his leg, hastily reached out to stop him and called out in a trembling voice, Your Highness. Duan Yu shook his head and tightly gripped the small brocade box in his hand. His complexion instantly turned as white as a sheet. You're lying. He coldly muttered these 3 words over and over again. Soon after, he harshly shouted, You're lying. This servant doesn't dare to deceive your highness. Yuanjun heavily kowtowed to the ground again and said with tears in his eyes, You're lying. Duan Yu harshly shouted and retreated several steps. He abruptly turned around and rushed out. He casually pulled over a spirit horse under the corridor and galloped away. His long purple robes glided in the wind, leaving behind an arc of shadow. Your Highness! Your Highness! Xiao Kezi immediately scrambled up in a panic and ran after him in a panic. He hastily turned around and shouted to the group of dumbstruck eunuchs behind him. Quickly report to His Majesty. Quickly find guards to follow His Highness. Duan Yu galloped out of the Imperial Palace and urged his horse towards the Imperial City's north gate. His fingers gripped the reins, and his knuckles were slightly white. His pair of peach blossom eyes, which were as gentle as water, were currently flashing with intense anxiety and disbelief. Impossible. He didn't believe it. He didn't believe it. didn't believe it. He had even seen his mother before he left the palace for Phoenix Grove. At that time, his mother was still fine and completely fine. What kind of joke was this? Why would a perfectly fine person need to be buried? They must be deceiving him, deceiving him, deceiving him. He galloped towards the city's north gate, and a group of Featherwood guards galloped behind him. They repeatedly shouted at the city gate, "Quickly open the city gate! Quickly open the city gate! His Highness Prince Chun has left the city." It was still early, and a large group of people had gathered outside the city gates, waiting to enter and exit the city. After the sound of horse hooves rang out in the morning light, everyone subconsciously retreated to the two sides. The rotating shaft of the city gate creaked as the heavy gate was pushed open to both sides by the city guards. Everyone looked back and saw a young man dressed in purple with a black horsewhip in his hand. He was handsome and graceful as he took the lead and rushed out of the city gate. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. A large group of Featherwood guards immediately went out to catch up with the spirit horse in front of them. After a long time, the dazed crowd finally let out a series of soft exclamations and exclamations. "Who is that?" A gentle voice came from a small green sedan by the side of the road. The maid stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Miss, it was Prince Chun who passed by just now." What a handsome and elegant Prince Chun! Two jade-like fingers gently lifted the curtain of the sedan chair, and her gaze slowly looked towards the city gate. The young man's figure was nowhere to be seen. He had already left. Duan galloped out of the north gate, and the light drizzle in the air rolled into beads and connected into a line, gradually becoming heavier. He had no time to care about anything else. His fingers tightly gripped the reins, and his thin lips were tightly pursed as he looked down at the small brocade box in his hand. Chapter 39:17. Mother, son has returned. Mother, you must wait for son. Duan spurred his horse to gallop wildly, not caring if the cold rain gradually increased in intensity. He only felt that his entire body was ice cold, and his face was also inexplicably damp. Your Highness! Your Highness! The Featherwood Guard commander galloped over and tried his best to persuade while shouting, Your Highness, the rain is too heavy. How about we wait? The rain was so heavy, so going up the mountain right now really felt like asking for trouble. However, Duan Yu turned a deaf ear to their voices and urged his horse up the mountain. Halfway up, a small mudslide occurred due to the torrential downpour, so he simply abandoned his spirit horse and continued to gallop up the mountain path. How could anyone dare to avert their eyes? They could only stare intently at the purple-robed figure before them. How could they keep up with his sudden burst of speed? The group of people also hurriedly abandoned their horses in a panic and followed His Highness up the mountain with flying steps, shouting, Your Highness! Your Highness! At this time, Duan Yu couldn't hear anything. The sound of wind, rain, and shouting were all no longer in his world. Only a sheet of pale white remained in the world before his eyes. White, white, everything was white, so white that it was dazzling to the eye. The several hundred people in front were busy with the noble consort's burial. Some were weeping, while others were singing, and all of them appeared extremely pious as they prostrated on the ground. But he couldn't see a single one of them. Duan Yu only saw a coffin placed in the center and 2 rows of guards standing ramrod straight in front of the imperial mausoleum. At this moment, the wind and rain seemed to be especially silent. Duan Yu's body swayed, and the small brocade box he tightly clutched in his hand also crashed into the rain with a bang. Tears that had not been shed for a long time flowed freely and silently. That pair of beautiful eyes that usually flowed with extraordinary splendor was now gray and desolate, as if a gust of wind could push them heavily to the ground. Everyone was stunned. Perhaps they didn't expect His Highness the Fourth Prince to suddenly appear. His sudden appearance caught them off guard. Duan Yu staggered over from the kneeling crowd like a wandering soul. He extended a pale finger and slowly brushed it across his mother's coffin before heavily kneeling on the ground. Your Highness! Noble consort Duan's personal old nanny, Lin Shi, instantly threw herself in front of him and sobbed, "You're finally back. Thank the heavens and earth that you were able to rush over and send off the imperial concubine on her last journey." Mother Lin was sobbing uncontrollably. However, Duan Yu turned a deaf ear and only gently pushed open the coffin lid. As he gazed at his mother's peaceful sleeping face, his lustrous tears landed on the back of his mother's hand with a plop. "Mother," Duan Yu sobbed as he leaned against the coffin. "Son has returned. Mother, your son is back." He reached out his hands, wanting to carry his mother out of the coffin. Mother Lin and the others hurriedly stopped him. "Your Highness, her ladyship is about to be buried. Your Highness." "Mother, your son is back." Duan Yu forcefully pushed aside the countless hands around him and insisted on carrying noble consort Duan out of the coffin. He hugged her tightly in his arms and said in a choked voice, "Mother, your son has returned. Your Highness, my condolences. The Empress had already passed away. Please let her Highness leave in peace." "Your Highness, liar, you're all lying." Duan Yu forcefully pushed away Mother Lin and the other's arms and shouted harshly, "My mother didn't die. My mother won't die. Where are the pill alchemists? Where are the physicians? I want to find the best pill alchemists in the world. They can definitely save my mother." Chapter 39:18. Duan Yu hastily stood up with noble consort Duan in his arms. As if recalling something, he shouted sternly, "Prepare the carriage, prepare the carriage. I want the fastest flying spirit beast in all of Tsang province. I want to go to the Divine Province. I want to go to the Divine Province. Find Jojo. Find Jojo to save his mother." Even if the whole world couldn't save his mother, Jojo definitely could. Jojo would definitely help him. She would definitely help him. Resurrection pill. The resurrection pill will definitely save my mother. The resurrection pill will definitely, Your Highness. Nanny Lin knelt on the ground while weeping bitterly. She tightly hugged the corner of Duan Yu's robe and stammered, "Her Highness is only a normal person. She's gone, she's gone. She's long gone, and her soul has scattered." Nanny Lin had never heard of that resurrection pill, but she presumed that it must be a cultivator's superb resurrection method. But Her Highness Noble Consort Duan was only a normal person. It was useless for normal people to eat any kind of pill. At most, they could eat some pills to extend their lifespan while they were alive. As for after death, cultivators could recover their souls. Where would normal people recover their souls? Duan Yu staggered and fell next to the coffin. He hugged his mother in a daze. "Your Highness, Your Highness." Duan Yu shook his head and hugged noble consort Duan's icy body. His tears dripped onto his mother's face. "Mother, don't abandon your son," Duan Yu murmured softly. As he hugged noble consort Duan's icy body, he forcefully pushed away the hands of others who came to support him. "Don't abandon your son, mother." Duan Yu shook his head. "Don't abandon your son, mother, don't abandon me." Duan Yu shook his head again and muttered pitifully, "I'm all alone now." He lowered his head and hugged noble consort Duan horizontally with both hands. His entire body was curled up next to the coffin. He was as lonely as a wandering little beast, making one's heart uncontrollably break. "Your Highness, don't be like this, Your Highness. Her Highness won't be able to leave in peace with you like this, Your Highness." Duan Yu pressed his head tightly against noble consort Duan's head, as if he could feel that his mother's breathing had not stopped. Like this, as if he could be closer to his mother. He pushed away Mother Lin's hand and stubbornly hugged his mother. He shook his head, then shook his head again. No matter how cold the rain was, it couldn't be colder than his heart right now. Thunder rumbled in the sky, and heavy rain poured down. Those madams wearing straw raincoats were secretly complaining incessantly. He then stole a glance at the fourth prince and couldn't help but sigh. According to the records of later generations, the four sons of Emperor Song were exceptionally gifted and intelligent. When his mother, imperial concubine Duan, passed away, the fourth prince held her coffin and cried for 3 days and 3 nights in the imperial mausoleum. He observed mourning for 30 days and did not leave the imperial mausoleum. His filial piety could set an example for the world, the dividing line of my oak. After Chunyu walked through the door, he bowed. Chunyu greets the crown princess. Chun-Kei, between you and I, master and servant, there is no need for such formalities. Take a seat. The little crown princess pointed to the seat below and said indifferently, Yes. Chun-Kei agreed with a smile. He looked up and carefully examined the little crown princess before praising. The crown princess looks increasingly radiant these days. Did the trip to Phoenix Grove go very smoothly? The little crown princess pursed her lips. It didn't go smoothly at all, but that's all in the past. The little crown princess harumphed. In any case, no one could truly harm me. Chun-Kei immediately nodded jubilantly. The crown princess herself is valiant. My crown prince consort is a firecracker. Chapter 39:19. In the future, even if I have to go to a dangerous place to train, this old servant can rest assured. I'm sure Mrs. Spirit in heaven must be very happy. Arbor grunted, took the teacup handed to her by the little palace maid, and raised her eyes to ask, I'm sure you know about the Mu family. Chunny nodded. I went to the Mu family's ancestral temple yesterday. The ancestral temple's gate was tightly locked. I thought I couldn't break it at will, so I didn't go there to disturb them. Xiao Mu remarked dryly. Where exactly did that bunch of old fellows and little fellows from the Mu clan hide? Do you know what to do? Before she went to bed yesterday, she thought that Chun-Yi might know which mouse hole the Mu family would hide in to take refuge. So today, she specially called her over to ask. The ancestral temple is protected by the strongest talisman array. Fortunately, little Miss didn't break it violently. Otherwise, she would have suffered some hardship. Oh, Arbor was somewhat disapproving. With the Mu family's talisman technique, it was indeed difficult to make her suffer. Chun-Yi said with a smile, I know where they are hiding. The Mu family has always had an underground secret room all these years. I know. The Mu family dug many secret passages. Previously, the fifth madam of the Mu family used them to trick her sister-in-law, Mu Dongmi, Arbor said expressionlessly. Chun-Yi, her little miss despised the Mu family. She could even remember these miscellaneous trifles clearly. Chun-Yi coughed and quickly changed the topic with a smile. Miss, do you want to go? Chun-Yi can take you to check it out. Arbor nodded. I wanted to wait for Big Brother to come back and let him find the Mu family in the underground cave. Now that I think about it, it's better to find them as soon as possible, lest they starve to death in the mouse hole when Big Brother comes back. Little Miss felt uncomfortable if she didn't say something mean to the Mu family every 3 sentences. The little girl was mainly afraid that after the advancement of the divine realm, Ancestor Chuyang would cry and make a fuss at her when he found out about it. The main thing was that Ancestor Chuyang was too annoying. That's good. When is little Miss going? Let's have breakfast, Arbor said faintly. Early in the morning, the crown prince was invited by the great emperor. She thought that since she had nothing to do, she might as well go and greet the Mu family. Chun-Yi, you haven't eaten yet, right? Let's eat together. Chun-Yu respectfully bowed and saluted. Chun-Yu does not dare. Let Chun-Yu serve little Mississippi. The little guy had a natural fondness for food. She didn't have high standards for the taste of food, so the cooks in the Eastern Palace's small kitchen all felt that their little crown prince consort was quite considerate. Today's breakfast was 8 dishes of desserts and 4 dishes of porridge. This was already because the little crown princess had purposely ordered them to make fewer dishes. As such, this fellow wouldn't be able to finish everything in one go. Chun-Yi, don't be so busy. Sit down and let's eat together. The little crown princess pointed at the seat beside her. After eating half a mouthful of a small bun and drinking a mouthful of porridge, the little crown princess asked expressionlessly, those who died should be the disciples of the Mu family's side branches, right? When they moved, they would definitely move the direct line of descent first. Although it was very cruel to say it, it was indeed something that every aristocratic family would do. Chun-Yi almost choked on the crown princess's cough. He quickly shook his head and laughed. At that time, it happened so suddenly that the old man probably didn't have the time to plan. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.